That steak. Thursday, frickin' chicken chunks. Frickers, where kids 10 and under eat free every day. Remember draft beer specials, everyday values, and kids eat free every day. The home for money-saving value is the home for fun, food, sports, and spirits. Frickers.
Chris Cuomo joins News Nation. Cuomo, now weeknights at 8 p.m. Eastern on News Nation. Go to newsnationnow.com to find your channel.
One-timer, Stamkos, score!
ESPN Hockey Night, presented by Expedia. Capitals Lightning. Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. That is hockey.
The Hoop Collective Podcast.
James Wiseman is minus 66 on the season in 121 minutes. Jordan Poole is minus 85 in twice as many minutes.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's great.
You guys know I really like Wiseman's skill set.
Yeah.
And I've sort of been like, defending him and believing in him the last 2+ years, but his on-court resume is poor.
The Hoop Collective Podcast. Listen on the ESPN app or wherever you listen to podcasts.
WING 1410 Dayton. Dayton's ESPN Radio.
Hi, everybody. Welcome in. It is the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash, live here on Dayton's ESPN radio station, 1410 Wing AM, 518-1410, 518-1410. That is the number to call and jump in on the conversation right off the bat before we even get started. Justin Smith, he sends in, can you guys talk about why the Saints keep rolling Candy Dalton out there? Why not Winston? That offense is trash. Is Winston healthy? No. That's why, Justin. See, look at that. You throw the questions, we answer, we move on. I mean, that's simple. So there's that. Justin Smith said he's off early. He voted, and now time for some cocktails for the show. This will be a first. Maybe I'll call in for my first time today. Well, you know us. We don't really like callers, so, No, Justin, you're always welcome to call in. 518-1410, 518-1410. I see the Pirates hat, and I think he's a Steelers fan as well. So you and Kev would get along just fine.
Absolutely. Join
fine.
the misery of this season with me, sir.
ESPN Radio's Jason Fitz joins us coming up later on in the show. Of course, we'll take a look ahead to tonight's second reveal of the college football playoff rankings. Obviously going to be a major shakeup there. We spent 3 full hours on college football yesterday. We will touch on some of that with Jason Fitz. A lot of NFL stuff coming up here today. Bengals fans thought that I omitted the Bengals from the show yesterday. We had probably the most calls we've ever had in a 3-hour window, just because that's where we went where everyone wanted to go. And that was obviously reaction to Ohio State. I get a kick out of when things like this happen. Like, this is not a big deal. It's just an overreaction. It's just anytime you see people saying that, it usually means it is a big deal, because it's not like you're trying to convince me of that. You're trying to convince yourself of that. Yesterday's show was proof of that. I had an entire rundown of things I wanted to get into. We didn't get into any of them because we went where the callers wanted to go, and that was to talk about Ohio State and their narrow win over Northwestern. I will put a bow on that, and at least until we get to the playoff conversation later on. I said everything I said yesterday to say that Ohio State's still a top 4 football team in the country, and they still have a very good chance at winning a national championship.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it wasn't 3 hours of me telling you that Ohio State's not a good football team, but the rankings are, if it's about, by the way, I don't need rankings to tell me who the 4 best football teams are. We could just fast forward all the way to the playoff. If we're really going to do the 4 best football teams, we don't even need the regular season. We'll just go straight to the playoffs and go from there. But the playoff, it entertains us a little bit. It kind of just humors us a little bit. It adds teams into the conversation that probably aren't really a part of the conversation. TCU, they think they're sitting at the adult table now. They may not be. They may not be after this weekend. By the way, LSU, everyone got furious at the conversation yesterday about LSU. In typical LSU form, they'll probably lose to the Razorbacks. That's just exactly how this works. So every year, it always takes care of itself, and who's to say it won't happen again this year? So we'll see, but I'm curious Jason Fitz thoughts on Ohio State, because me and you got a lot of heat because we said if we believe that the rankings should display Michigan being ahead of Ohio State, not because we're Michigan fans, not because we hate Ohio State. It's just at this point, everything you've done throughout the season has put you in this position to be ranked in the top 4. But what you do on a weekly basis sometimes is the splitting of hairs of who gets ranked where. I think Michigan's just playing better football. I think whenever the last 6 weeks, they've outscored their opponents 100-3 or something like that in the second half. Now, I know they're not playing anybody, but they're letting people know that they're playing nobody. Sometimes Ohio State plays in Northwestern, and you're like, what the hell's going on right now? So, but NFL stuff coming up today. You want to open up with some NFL, Kev?
Let's do it.
You college football out? I know that you hate college.
I love college football, but that was a lot yesterday. 3 straight hours on talking about how bad our Buckeyes are instead of talking about how great our Buckeyes are is a little rough for me. So let's talk some NFL.
So Justin Smith says, oops, voice text fail, the Penguins misery too. He's talking about he's talking a little NHL. By the way, Justin Smith, you may not be a Columbus Blue Jackets fan, but we are re-debuting the Columbus Blue Jackets game of the week starting next week, every Thursday or Friday. We will be carrying one Columbus Blue Jackets game a week starting next week, every Thursday or Friday, depending on if there's an Ohio State game or something that could bump the programming. Every Thursday or Friday, starting next week, we will have Columbus Blue Jackets hockey right here on 1410 ESPN Radio. So Justin, I'm sure you'll be happy about that, even though maybe you're not a Blue Jackets fan. Figured you'd like that as far as that's concerned. And you've disappointed the listeners.
Why? What did I do?
Well, you know what? You can't see the screen, but it's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash. I'm Justin Kinner. We have Mr. Kev Nash.
What up, though?
There we go. He says, no, what up, though? I love Kev's energy at the beginning. Josh Maloney, you ask and you shall receive. So there you go. All right. NFL season last night, the Ravens knocked off Candy Dalton, as Justin Smith referred to him a little bit ago. And that means week 9 is officially in the books. And every week on Tuesday, we once the chapter is closed on each week. Last night's Monday Night Football game, not the most entertaining of the bunch, but hey, Lamar Jackson, he continues to just put out numbers that make that make the doubters continue to latch on. But then he keeps doing the one thing that all that matters is winning. The Ravens win again, 6-3, 6-3 on the season, sitting atop the AFC North, and doing their thing. And they're doing it quietly. They're not as, it's not that Ravens defense from years past and decades past. Still a very good defense nonetheless, but
definitely getting better on the defensive end. That Roquan Smith trade definitely paid dividends last night. They weren't giving up wide open guys across the middle and stuff like that. I mean, I know they were playing the Saints, but baby steps.
And then the thing about the Ravens too that's interesting is the fact that they are capitalizing on the weak part of their schedule. That is something that when you look at the two teams, like we knew it would be the Bengals and the Ravens atop the AFC North. We knew that the Browns, what they had to do was capitalize on the opening 6 games of the season and capitalize on the easier opening to theirs. The difference between the Ravens, the Bengals, and the Browns is the fact that the Ravens have taken advantage of the light part of their schedule. I know we do the bumper sticker stuff of, no, there's no easy win in the NFL. There's not, but for the NFL teams that have expectations, there are expectations for you to beat certain teams. If that's the case, then no one would ever be upset about their team losing because we all do that. Man, if they should have beat that team. The Bengals should have beat that team. The Browns should have beat that team. The Ravens should have beat that team. Kev, the Ravens have taken care of business. Their only losses are against the Bills and the Dolphins, and of course the Giants. That's the only unforgivable one, if you will. But the Giants are still a top 10 football team right now. So they lost to the Dolphins and they lost to obviously the Bills. I mean, this Ravens team, they're taking care of it. They're beating the bad teams. The Bengals are in the shape that they're in because they haven't beat the bad teams. They haven't beat the bad teams that they were supposed to start the season. The Browns are in their situation because they couldn't hold on to an 11-point lead against the Jets with 90 seconds to go.
I'm glad you brought that up, and I'm surprised we didn't bring this up when it happened back in week 2. The Browns gave up that lead to the Jets, and the Ravens gave up that crazy lead to the Dolphins. Which one is more embarrassing? Which loss is more embarrassing, do you think?
Oh man, it's the Jets because the Dolphins right now we're learning Tua's for real. I'm on the Tua train. I'm a big fan of Tua's right now. The reason I'm a big fan of Tua's is because everyone keeps telling him how bad he is, and all he does is keep going out there throwing for 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks last weekend. He just keeps going out there and doing his thing. They looked like garbage when he was out with the concussion issues, and then he comes back and they start winning again. Oh, it's because they have Tyreek Hill. Yes. Teams with good players win football games. You guys act like you just put you know what I mean? Like, look at the Packers. Everyone's saying Aaron Rodgers is washed. He's definitely not washed. He was the best player in football last year. You know what he doesn't have this year? Talent. He doesn't have talent around him. He's not elevating anyone around him. But at the same time, I don't think it's because Aaron Rodgers doesn't have talent. Tua's good because he has weapons around him. Burrow's good because he has weapons around him. When you take talent away, you're not as good. So I'm going to say the Jets, Kev. I think the Browns, especially because a double-digit lead with 90 seconds to go. 11 points, 90 seconds to go. I don't care if the Browns is the Browns. Even the worst Browns team shouldn't give up an 11-point lead with 90 seconds to go. But
yeah, I'm going to agree with you there. I was going to say the Ravens, but you did hit on the fact that they have Jalen Waddle, they have Tyreek Hill, and they caught on fire at the right time. So much had to go wrong for the Cleveland Browns, obviously missing the extra point, and then the Jets scoring in 3 plays, getting the onside, then scoring another touchdown. Yes, it's very little time on the clock, but with such little time, I think that's far more embarrassing than giving up a big lead like that to a high-power offense, which we're finding out now from the Miami Dolphins. So I will go with the Jets coming back versus the Browns.
Yeah, and that, but those losses are the ones that we look back at. Everyone says, well, you'll win a championship in September. But yeah, but sometimes you'll miss the playoffs because of those games. If the Bengals miss the playoffs by a game or two, they're going to look back at that opening 2 weeks when they lost to the Cowboys and then when they lost to the Steelers. You may not win championships there. You don't win a Super Bowl in September, but you can lose you could lose in the, you know what I mean? You could lose your postseason in those opening months as well. And that's what we've seen. But nonetheless, yes, the Ravens continue to take advantage. I know they're not playing the best of teams right now. They got the Panthers coming up, just like we saw with the Cincinnati Bengals this past Sunday as well. But they got the Panthers, the Jaguars, the Broncos, the Steelers. The Ravens have an opportunity here to run away with this division. I think that it's not about the Bengals and the Ravens for the division. It's about the Browns and the Bengals for the wild card at this point, if any wild card for either of them. I just saw a quote from Nick Saban earlier that kind of reminded me of the Cincinnati Bengals. If consistency was a place, it would not be crowded. And that is, I love that line. I've never heard that line. I'm sure it's not the first that some of you have heard that. I've never heard that line. I really like it. But when I think of the Cincinnati Bengals, Kev, the first thing that comes to mind is that line I just heard from Nick Saban earlier this afternoon. If consistency was a place, it wouldn't be crowded. Let's just put it that way. So we'll see. We'll see.
It's not looking good for – I just really think that the only team from the AFC North that's going to make the playoff is the division winner. So Browns, if y'all really want it, you better get on it. Bengals, if you want it, you better get on it because it looks like the Ravens are starting to click on all cylinders.
Browns have to win 2 of their next 3 just to kind of remain in the hunt a little bit. I mean, they got the Dolphins right out the gate, and that's a tough one right there. I don't really know where I'm going to go with that one yet because Tua, I'm a believer in Tua. It's not, coming into the season, I didn't think that game was that big a deal. I do now. Buffalo, there's a lot of news kind of waiting to be broke out there about the future for Josh Allen, who was having an MVP-like season. Who knows what that injury is going to kind of hold for him, but that could be a huge break for the Browns coming out. And then they got the Buccaneers. I know that looks like a grueling part of the schedule for the Browns, Kev, but I'm looking at that. I'm like, Dolphins, that's a winnable game. That's going to be a good game. No one's blowing anyone out in that game. That's going to come down to the final minutes of that quarter. Bad news is the Browns aren't very good in close games, so there's that. But I think the Buccaneers. That's not a team. That's not last year's Bucs or the year before's Bucs. This is a very beatable Bucs team. So I'm not as intimidated by that. It's the Bills game. That's going to be the deal breaker right there. But we've also seen the Browns not capitalize on opportunities that should be there. So nothing is a given when it comes to the Cleveland Browns, that's for sure. Bye week cannot have come at a better time for the Cincinnati Bengals, of course. The one thing, and we'll get into this more in the reaction from over the weekend, people got mad at me because I didn't dive into the Bengals yesterday. I'm like, hey, they beat up on their bad team. The Buckeyes almost lost to their bad team. That's why that took precedent over this. But I don't know who the hell the Bengals are right now without Jamar Chase. And everyone does that. Bengals fans like to do this thing where, if you lose that week, you're the worst team in the world. If you win, you're the best team in the world. We're back, baby. I don't know who the Bengals are. They got blown out in game 1 without Jamar Chase, and they blew out opponent without Jamar Chase. But the past game wasn't elite. Now, to be fair, didn't have to be. But I still don't know who Joe Burrow is without Jamar Chase right now. He looked really, really bad against the Browns, and he only threw for 200 yards against the Panthers. But Joe Mixon rushed for 4 touchdowns, I guess, and 170-plus yards and a passing touchdown or a touchdown catch. But that's not who Joe Mixon is. The Cincinnati Bengals put out a tweet today. Said, how many it was like a picture of Joe Mixon holding up 4 fingers. How many touchdowns did you have in this game? I'm like, well, how many touchdowns did he have in weeks 1 through 8? I don't care what he did in one game. Is that who Joe Mixon is, or is who the Bengals were the previous 8 weeks? I think it's more likely that they're that. Win a couple, lose a couple. Win a couple, lose a couple. I don't know who the Bengals are right now. I don't know who they are with Jamar Chase. I know they look a little more intimidating, but I definitely don't know who they are without him. That means we'd have to rely on Joe Mixon to all of a sudden just flip a switch. Do you just flip a switch in the middle of the season when you're a running back like that? If he does, it's one of the strangest things I've ever seen, if that's the case.
Man, I don't know. I'll be perfectly honest. I didn't watch the Cincinnati Bengals game this weekend. Once I saw the score was 21-0, I was like, well, no need to watch that. So I missed everything from the Cincinnati Bengals. So I would ask anybody out there that watched the game, did they do anything different in the run game? Were they running out of the shotgun? Were they running underneath center? Were they running off tackle? Were they just running old school wham plays? Like, what did they do differently to get the running game going? Because that's very odd that, like, okay, man, this dude has been basically averaging like 3 yards a carry, if that, all season. And to go from 3 yards per carry to basically 5.5 yards per carry is crazy. Are the Panthers that bad? Have they checked out that bad? Something happened in that game that rarely happens in the NFL. Your starting quarterback doesn't play in the fourth quarter. Like, that's a college thing. We're used to seeing CJ Stroud over there with a towel and a hat and a wire in his ear, listening to the plays and everything like that, chomping it up with the guys on the bench. That happened in an NFL game. That rarely happens. It rarely happens that both teams put in their backup quarterbacks and say, y'all just play out the string. Let's get up out of Dodge, run, punt, run, clock, and we're out of here. Like, that rarely happens in the NFL. So help me out. What did they do different in the run game for the Cincinnati Bengals to get things rolling? Because, I mean, Joe Burrow was 20. It says he was 22 or 28, very efficient. So, but the run game was the catalyst to everything that they did versus the Panthers. So help us out. Let us know what they did in the run game that was so different.
Nick on Facebook says Mixon ran hard, didn't dance, hit the hole, and broke tackles. The breaking of tackles thing, that was what was different about Joe Mixon over the weekend that I saw, hitting the holes. You know, that's been the one thing. Like,
maybe there were holes this week,
you know, and that's the thing too. Now, you know, the Panthers are there's only 4 teams that are worse against the run as far as defense goes. I don't think that's necessarily always fair to use that, but it does seem that the Bengals are the very best at capitalizing on the worst teams in football's weaknesses. Like, people think I'm taking a shot, but I'm not. Every time the Bengals have a breakout game like this, it's against the worst passing defense in the league or the worst run defense in the league. I think what people want to see, the doubters like me, right, who everyone just labels me a hater, but I think the reason that so many people are so lukewarm on this team is, got to see, like, last year everyone believed because you kicked the Chiefs' ass twice. You know what I mean? Like, when you watched them do it, they haven't beat anyone of substance yet this season, and I think that's what we're waiting to see. So although that was a great performance, they didn't come out and feel, oh, woe is me. We don't have a Woozy. We don't have Mike Hilton. We don't have, Jamar Chase. It was like they were sick to their stomach after what happened on Halloween, and they wanted to make sure they put that game behind them, and they did a good job. I'll give them that. They put that Halloween game behind them. You know what I mean? Like, there was no feeling sorry for themselves. I think they got that taste out of their mouth.
35-0 at halftime.
Yeah, it was a college type score, but that's what
we were expecting from the Buckeyes.
I mean, I think the thing is, when it comes to the sense, they are NFC South champions. Like, they have dominated the NFC South. They still got the Buccaneers to go through, but they own the Panthers, they own the Falcons. They took care of business against the Saints, and they got the Buccaneers coming up. But they may not be able to win a game in their division, but they've dominated the NFC South. That's for dang sure. But yeah, Kev asked a good question. Bengals fans, what did you see that was different on Sunday that makes you a believer that, hey, this team figured something out in the run game? Did they figure something out with the run game? Was just like a 3-point shooter that gets hot in a game in basketball and then cools back off the next game? Is Joe Mixon back? 518-1410. 518-1410. Bengals fans, your thoughts on what you saw over the weekend. We'll take your calls and get back into this on the other side. It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash right here on Dayton's ESPN radio station, 1410 Wing AM.
Listen, stream, watch. It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash right here on Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM. ESPN 1410 Wing AM weather.
The mid-afternoon and early evening will be partly cloudy, a high near 60. Tonight's going to be mostly clear, a low near 40. And tomorrow's going to be clear and sunny, a high near 70. I'm Pete Spivak for 1410 ESPN Radio.
Ohio, DraftKings Sportsbook is coming. To celebrate, all new customers will receive $200 in free bets. Plus, 5 lucky customers will win a $100,000 free bet. That's right. DraftKings Sportsbook is giving you $200 in free bets just for signing up today. No deposit required. Plus, you'll be entered to win a $100,000 free bet when you sign up. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and sign up with code WING1410 to get $200 in free bets to use once mobile sports betting hits Ohio. Plus, 5 customers will win a $100,000 free bet only at DraftKings Sportsbook with code WING1410. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-589-9966. 21 and up. Physically present in Ohio. Eligibility restrictions apply. See terms at DraftKings.com/sportsbook. Subject to regularity licensing requirements. 1 per customer. $200 issued as $825 free bets. No purchase necessary for sweepstakes. Void where prohibited. Ends first day. DraftKings is allowed to operate in Ohio. See terms at dkng.co/OH.
Need assistance with door and window projects? The Home Depot can help. From inspiration and materials to ordering and installation, our free Millwork virtual apron service can get you moving and doing. Plus, we speak Spanish too. Our associates can help you tackle complex jobs without you leaving the job site, saving you time and money. Call us at 1-833-HD-APRON or visit homedepot.com/MVA. The Home Depot, how doers get more done.
You can't get much for $5 these days, unless you go to Wendy's for a $5 Biggie Bag. Get your choice of double stack, junior bacon cheeseburger, or crispy chicken BLT, plus 4-piece nugs, fries, and a drink, all for just $5. You got that bag. You got that Biggie Bag. You got that bag. That was smooth, wasn't it? That's how you're going to feel when you get that Biggie Bag at Wendy's.
U.S. price and participation may vary. Includes 4-piece nuggets, small soft drink, and small fry. Prices may be higher in Alaska and Hawaii.
Finding the right Medicare plan? Oof, no easy feat. Kind of like those dances my granddaughter loves making me do. But then I found Walgreens Find Rx coverage. Lets you compare plans online, over the phone, or in person. Made Medicare shopping so easy. Plus, I found plans with low-cost copays. I can get down with that. When you need to talk Medicare, Walgreens is here. Start shopping today at walgreens.com/Medicare.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Hey, I'm Andy. If you don't know me, it's probably because I'm not famous. But I did start a men's grooming company called Harry's. The idea for Harry's came out of a frustrating experience I had buying razor blades. Most brands were overpriced, overdesigned, and out of touch. At Harry's, our approach is simple. Here's our secret. We make sharp, durable blades and sell them at honest prices for as low as $2 each. We care about quality so much that we do some crazy things, like buy a world-class German blade factory. Obsessing over every detail means we're confident in offering a 100% quality guarantee. Millions of guys have already made the switch to Harry's, so thank you if you're one of them. And if you're not, we hope you give us a try with this special offer. Get a Harry's starter set with a 5-blade razor, weighted handle, shave gel, and a travel cover, all for just $3 plus free shipping. Just go to harrys.com and enter code IMPACT at checkout. That's harrys.com, code IMPACT. Enjoy!
Recent clinical study, patients using Salonpas reported improved sleep, mood, and the ability to work. They had less pain and were able to reduce their use of oral pain medications.
For pain, I use Salonpas. It's good medicine. Hi, I'm Coach Jim Place, and I'm proud to support Tony Shane for Montgomery County Common Pleas Court Judge. I've known Tony and his wife Annie for a long time. Something that makes Tony and the great Annie so special is they are a team. They truly care about the citizens of Montgomery County. They were born here, they're raising their family here, and the citizens of Montgomery County are something they care very deeply about. That's why on November 8th, I'm voting for Tony Shane for Montgomery County Common Pleas Court Judge.
Paid for by citizens to elect Shane.
If you have certain chronic conditions such as heart disease,
asthma,
diabetes, and you're 19 years of age or older, 52,
36,
42, you may be at increased risk for pneumococcal pneumonia. Ask your doctor or pharmacist about getting vaccinated with Prevnar 20, pneumococcal 20-valent conjugate vaccine, a Pfizer vaccine that can help protect against pneumococcal pneumonia in just one dose. Prevnar 20 is approved for adults to help prevent infections from 20 strains of the bacteria that cause pneumococcal pneumonia. Continued approval may depend on a supportive study. Don't get Prevnar 20 if you've had a severe allergic reaction to the vaccine or its ingredients. Adults with weakened immune systems may have a lower response to the vaccine. The most commonly reported side effect was pain at the injection site. For additional common side effects and full prescribing information, please call 1-855-213-2138 or visit Prevnar20.com.
I'm going to ask my doctor
about getting vaccinated.
With Prevnar 20.
With Discover, you can redeem your rewards for cash in any amount at any time. Learn more at discover.com/redeem rewards. Terms apply.
We are Dayton's home of the Ohio State Buckeyes.
Down the sideline to the 10. It drags a defender in the end zone for a touchdown. Jackson Smith-Njigba. A 50-yard scoring strike from C.J. Stroud. He'll hit the Purdue 40. Down the left side to the 30. Henderson to the 20, to the 10. And into the end zone goes Henderson.
Don't miss the Buckeyes all season long. Right here on 1410 ESPN Radio and on 92.9 Jack FM. Go Bucks!
And we are back. I'm Justin Kinner. He's Kev Nash, hanging out with you here on a Tuesday. ESPN Radio's Jason Fitz coming up around the corner. We hope everybody's had a great day. I'm really mad. Tomorrow is one of my most busiest days of the week, and it's the last really nice day that I would technically have time to go out and enjoy the weather and enjoy the golf course one final time. But damn it.
Oh, it is going to be 70 tomorrow. It's going to be 70 on Thursday as well.
Yeah, I'm busy all day that day too, and Friday. And
you don't want to be out there on Friday. Rain and 60 degrees.
It's debatable.
Better than me.
How about this? You knew the whole story with Michigan State to Michigan was not necessarily done, but, so newly retained counsel for Michigan State football player determines that Michigan player started the altercation and, to no surprise, as well discovering major security failures in Ann Arbor. Oh, my gosh. I thought Michigan was perfect. I didn't think they played any role in this whatsoever. My goodness. That's far from over. I'm just saying Harbaugh wanted, charges to be pressed. Well, now the authorities are involved, and sometimes, more stuff gets opened up than what you had intended. Harbaugh trying to be as aggressive on this as possible. And I'm not saying it was right what Michigan State players did, but I think, you want to jump to say, oh, we did nothing wrong. Well, we'll see what happens throughout this case. It'll be interesting.
Yeah, I don't think whatever the Michigan player said, I don't think he deserved what he got from retaliation from the Sparty players. But the biggest thing for me that stands out was the lack of security by Michigan Stadium for everybody involved, not just the Michigan players, but the Michigan State players and fans going to the game. So if they're laxing in the tunnel for the players and the coaches, imagine how much lax was going on with security in the stadium amongst the fans as well. So security has to do a better job. Plain and simple.
Oh, Kev, I can't believe you're blaming the tunnel.
One tunnel, one way in, one way out.
The big house. But not enough room for more than one tunnel. All right. We welcome you back. It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash right here on 1410 ESPN Radio. The Cincinnati Bengals head into the bye week 5-4 on the season. And despite that big win over the Panthers this past Sunday, I don't know if it's necessarily a big win. It wasn't a big win because of the opponent wasn't an opponent that I would look at and say, man, that was a big win. It was a big win just because of how much they were reeling after that loss against the Browns on Halloween night, losing 32-13 against the Browns. They had to come out and put on a show. My big thing is this, and this isn't me as a Bengals hater. This is a legitimate question I have for Bengals fans is how good do you feel about that win? Mainly because they dominated in a way, Kev, that it's almost like in basketball. If you have that player off the bench that normally does not shoot from three, but all of a sudden just went the heck off for three, and you won a game because of that, and you feel good about the win, but you also know that you can't continue to count on that random Joe Schmo off the bench to come in and just drain three after three after three. You know what I'm saying? Like you feel good about that win, but at the same time, I think you feel better about the wins that you won because the game plan was this. I'm not hating on that win, folks, because they needed that. It didn't matter how they won it. It didn't matter if it was a 3-0 game. They had to find a way to win that game. They could not lose. After losing to the Browns, they could not take a loss into the bye week, especially a loss against the Panthers. But my point is as great as that win was, you put 42 points up on the board. I still don't know who the hell the Bengals are. And what I mean by that is we started to figure out who they were when they had Jamar Chase, and they were a little bit healthier. We knew exactly who they were. That's the team that went to the Super Bowl last year. It's a team that has one of the most explosive offenses in the league. And although they were explosive this past Sunday, I'm still not convinced that this is an explosive offense. All I'm saying is you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. We still don't know who this pass game is without Jamar Chase. No touchdowns from Tyler Boyd or T. Higgins. I think that's a huge deal because you put 42 points up. More power to you. But if you actually think that you're going to steamroll the rest of the opponents with 4 touchdowns a game from Joe Mixon and 1 in the pass game and no touchdowns or contributions from T. Higgins or Tyler Boyd, Kev, I don't think that's a recipe for success. I don't think that's a recipe. It's not that it's not a recipe for success. It's just not a recipe you can count on. Joe Mixon has been non-existent for 8 of the 9 weeks. He has had a breakout game this past Sunday. I don't know if it's a breakout game. It was just a great game. But the sample size shows this is not a very good running football team. I know they won because of the run game, but do you see what I'm saying by you feel good about the win because you desperately need it, but how good do you feel about it? Because I feel like going into the bye week, still don't know who the hell this team is without Jamar Chase. Maybe this extra week off, 2 weeks to prepare for the Steelers coming up. Maybe this is where the time that they get to really hone in on making T. Higgins the vocal point of this offense or this pass game.
I think that they rolled what was working. The run game was working. And if you're running for the clips that they were against the Atlanta Falcons, you shouldn't pass. You shouldn't have to pass. Kind of like a la what KB was talking about on his show. Like you can run in the rain, snow, sleet, whatever. You can run in those conditions. And from my perspective, it seems like they were trying to get them going because if you look back to the Browns game, I know it turned into a blowout, but the game was tight until the middle of the third quarter where the Browns broke it open. But up until that point, I believe Mixon only had like 8 carries in that game. I think he only had 10 carries total in that game.
What game?
And versus the Browns.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't like it was a blowout.
Yeah,
early.
it wasn't until like the third quarter till the Browns started opening it up. So I think it was a conscious effort. Like, look, for us to get back balance, we can have as many attempts as we want, but we're not producing yardage wise. So I think it was a concerted effort to try to get more balance into the offense because this isn't college where you can be out here like Mike Leach and say, you know what, we're not going to run the ball at all. I don't care if our opponent knows it or not. We're just going to throw the ball. That can't happen in the NFL. You have to have some type of balance. So I respect the fact that they stuck with the run game and it finally paid dividends versus the Falcons.
Yeah, and I think, and see, this is where it's so tough to be a coach because in one hand, you just keep running the football. Like the worst thing that could have happened was what happened this past Sunday for Zach Taylor, because this is what frustrates me about all of this is Zach Taylor. See what happens when you run the football. The Bengals have been trying to run the football this season. Sometimes you can run the football and not produce. And that's exactly what has been happening. The point I've been bringing up for weeks now is there was only 3 running backs that had more carries in the NFL than Joe Mixon. And that was Saquon Barkley. That was obviously Nick Chubb. And then obviously Derrick Henry. So only 3 running backs had more carries than Joe Mixon on the season. Those other 3 are the most dominant running backs in the league. And then there's Joe Mixon, who has not been dominant this year. Joe Mixon was fantastic last year. He was a top 5. In fact, the only reason he didn't get more love in the NFL last year, Kev, as far as the respect that Nick Chubb and Derrick Henry and the others get, is because that's how exciting the pass game was. That's how overshadowed it was. Now that the pass game has not been as elite this season, now when they're trying to put on the run game, and the run game has not been as flashy. I think that we'll see Joe Mixon continue to improve moving forward. But I just don't think he's going to be that guy that we saw this past Sunday. But good for him for that game. He stepped up when his team needed him most, but maybe it was a confidence thing. I don't know. Who knows what can happen now? This is why I always say, heading into a bye week, is it tough having a bye week after a tough loss because you just want to get back out on the field and kind of erase that memory? Or do you hate having a bye week after a win like that? Because like if you're the Bengals and Joe Mixon, man, I just want to get the heck back out there because and see if we could ride this one.
I think the Bengals desperately needed a bye week, banged up. And another thing about the running game, it finally got going. Man, you want to get that confidence, you want to get that mojo, and it's finally working. Let's not go away from it's finally working. So hopefully that can build for them into the following weeks of the regular season. But to the bye week point, they're super banged up. I prefer having the bye week around now. Like this, I know it's not 16 games anymore, but this is the middle part of the season. This is where you want your bye week. It always used to frustrate me when I would see a team out there, they get their bye week in week 3. Like, I think those teams are at such a disadvantage because you know somebody's going to get hurt. This is the NFL. People get hurt left and right. So if you don't have that bye week to get rested up and get ready for the quote-unquote second half of the season, I think their bye week comes at a perfect spot for the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah, no doubt. We definitely agree on that. The one point I forgot to finish earlier was the fact that it's the double-edged sword for Zach Taylor is, my point was he's running the football. Joe Mixon, only 3 running backs, had more carries than he did. I know I've said that already, but my point is when people say run the football, Zach Taylor was running the football. The running back wasn't producing. The most annoying take to me that has come out of this past weekend is, see what happens, Zach Taylor, when you run the football? You're a moron if that's your take, because there's the straight morons. Like, they don't pay attention. They've been running the football. They just haven't been running it well. If you want to get mad at anybody, see Joe Mixon, what happens when you produce and live up to your contract. That's what they should be saying, not see Zach Taylor, what happens when you run the football. Zach Taylor's been running the football season. The run game hasn't been there. It's just that simple. But we'll see if they're able to carry that momentum over. Panthers not a very good run defense, but I don't think that really matters. Joe Mixon last year, I mean, it didn't matter if it was good defense, bad defense. He was running all over him. We know that that's still in there. He's only 26 years old, 27 years old. I was talking about him the other day thinking like, oh man, like maybe he's starting to regress. Maybe he's an older running back. And then I looked it up. I'm like, holy crap, him and Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow's a baby in this league, and Joe Mixon, I'm almost talking like he's regressing. He's getting old. He's the same dang age. I think he's like a year older. Like, it's pretty insane. 518-1410, 518-1410. Thoughts on the Cincinnati Bengals? My whole point is feel good about the win, but we still don't know who this team is, what their identity is without Jamar Chase. I think they're still a very well-balanced team. Joe Burrow only dropped back 28 times yesterday. Sunday, I should say. He only got sacked once, but they really didn't have many opportunities to sack him. They don't have a lot of great defensive pass rushers anyways. So it was a safe game to really lean on the pass game and the run game, I should say, and not allow anyone else to get hurt heading in to the bye week. So 5-4. They are the Bengals are who they are, and I don't know who they are, as crazy as that sounds. I know they're that team that went to the Super Bowl last year, but this is a team that they're consistently 500. They're a 500 football team. Since Joe Burrow arrived in Cincinnati, they've won 17 games. They've lost 17 games. This is who they are. The Bengals are who they are with Joe Burrow. And a lot of people focus on that Super Bowl run, and that's fine because that was a very good Super Bowl run, and Joe Burrow's a very good quarterback. But at the end of the day, it's going to be Joe Burrow's the quarterback. It's going to be an emotional career for him, for the fans, because you're going to feel on top of the world one week and defeated the next. And I know you could say that that's every team, but more so with him. 17-17. They're 5-4 this season. They are who their quarterback is, and that's a 500 football team moving forward. They're going to need bigger games from Joe Mixon like that if they want to string together some wins. Kev, they've had two-game winning streaks this year. That's it. To get where they want to go, they have to string together consistent wins. They haven't been able to do that, and it's going to be a lot tougher to do coming out of that bye week. That's a gauntlet's coming out. Well, I shouldn't say coming out. They at least have the Steelers, but then you have the Titans, you have the Buccaneers, you have the Bills, you have the Chiefs, you have the Browns again, the Ravens revamped defense again. Like, that's not a fun sprint to the finish line, if you will, coming out of that bye week. They need to be as healthy as possible. That's for sure.
Yeah, it all comes back to earlier in the season. I know a lot of people talk about the Cowboys game. That's not a game like that I thought they basically had won. The Steelers game, they had won, and they ultimately lost that game. And that's all it really does. It comes down to one game. We saw this last year with the Raiders and the Chargers. Literally, came down to one game and they played on the last game of the season, where if they tied, they would have made the playoffs and the winner would have sent the other one home. So that's how tight the margins are in the NFL. So it's important to get those dubs when you can cash them in. So you go ahead and look at the playoff picture. The Bengals are sitting at,
I think 9th is what I
they're
saw.
sitting at 9 right now. And that's not a good spot to be in. Obviously, the top 7 seeds make it, but you go ahead and look at everything that's going on in the AFC East. Yo, has a conference ever delivered every single team from their division in the playoffs? Because right now,
everyone's talking about the NFC East, but it's the AFC.
The AFC East, I mean, is the Patriots are a half a game out of the 7th spot. They're sitting at 8, and the Chargers are sitting at 7.
That's a good question. That's something I talked to Jason Fitz about coming up around the corner. But yeah, has a division. And by the way, that's because the AFC North has underachieved. The AFC North is why the AFC East is able to flirt with putting all 4 teams in. And it's because the Bengals and Browns have underachieved, and everything. The Ravens are doing what they were expected to do coming in. The Ravens just
Steelers are doing exactly what they expected them to do.
Yeah, what? And I'm not being funny here. Their exact record is what?
Who, the Steelers?
Yeah, the
2-6.
They're 2-6. Yeah, they're, I think what the Patriots are doing, no one's buying into the Patriots. They're 5-4. I think some expected the Steelers to be in that range too. You know what I mean? Like, and that just hasn't been the case. That's for sure. All right, 518-1410. Thoughts on your Cincinnati Bengals? Let's go to Nick. Nick, thanks for holding, sir. How are you? Oh, Nick.
Do better.
Nick, call back. We'll get you back to the front of the line, but we'll continue to take your calls coming up here throughout. I put this out on the show or on the Facebook page earlier this afternoon, but Bengals Steelers, speaking of the Steelers, their week 11 matchup has been flexed out of the Sunday Night Football slots. We will now see that matchup at 4:25. They lose one of their primetime games, and now we'll see Justin Herbert and Patrick Mahomes and the Chargers against the Chiefs. So that's something coming up. I know the big debate on social media was, how do you go to the Super Bowl one year and be flexed out of a primetime game the next? But everyone's blaming Kev's Pittsburgh Steelers. It's all the Steelers. There's no way it's the underachieving 5-4 Bengals, right? It's all on the 2-6 Pittsburgh Steelers. That's why they got their primetime game taken away.
It is. It's 100% is.
It's not. If they were facing Tom Brady, they're going to keep Tom Brady in that slot because he's must watch. They're going to keep Aaron Rodgers there because he's must watch. Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow's not must watch.
Tampa Bay is sitting at the 4th spot. They're still in the playoff hunt. Steelers are cooked and done.
What's the Buccaneers record?
They're 4-5, but they're in the 4th spot.
4-5. So you're
saying
saying
they would playoff spot.
That had nothing to do with it's Tom Brady. That's what it is.
They're in the playoff spot.
The Bengals are still in a playoff. They're in the playoff hunt.
Yeah, the Steelers aren't.
Uh-huh.
So they're not a compelling watch. This is a TV product. You want eyes on the TV screen.
Joe Burrow should be that TV product, and he's just not.
It's the matchup.
Something about a quarterback that is 17-17-1.
This is about to be pass me the hater mic.
It's comments. 17-17-1. I wouldn't want to watch that either. We'll be right back. Shame.
The Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash. Presented by Brad Mays with Home Experts Realty. Weekdays at 3 p.m. on 1410 ESPN Radio.
Don't put it off any longer. You know it's time. Time for a bathroom upgrade by Bath Creations. Bath Creations is a leader in bathroom renovations, providing the very best value in bath and shower remodeling and proudly made in the USA. With Bath Creations, you get a beautiful modern bathroom that's safe, comfortable, and affordable. Attention first responders, veterans, and active military. Save $500 off your purchase right now. Visit Poe Avenue in Dayton.
Yo, Yost.
As our Attorney General,
Dave Yost is keeping us safe.
He's protecting religious freedom, and he's fighting to lower healthcare costs.
Yo, Dave Yost. Paid for by Dave Yost for Ohio.
Your money has to go farther. So remember, everyday values are at only one place, Frickers. Monday, boneless frickin' chicken wings. Tuesday, traditional frickin' chicken wings. Wednesday is all about that steak. Thursday, frickin' chicken chunks. Frickers, where kids 10 and under eat free every day. Remember draft beer specials, everyday values, and kids eat free every day. The home for money-saving value is the home for fun, food, sports, and spirits, Frickers.
Your daily commute. You could do it alone. The downside is spending thousands each year on gas, parking, and vehicle maintenance, not to mention the air pollution you're causing. There is a smarter way. Introducing GoHio Commute. What is GoHio Commute? It's a free service with info on commuting options like ride matching for carpoolers, van poolers, and bike poolers, and links to local public transit providers. Go to MiamiValleyRideshare.org or call 223-SAVE for details. GoHio Commute, a smarter way.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. See better and stay safe on the road with our visibility event. Right now, you can earn up to $20 in bonus rewards when you buy a pair of Rain-X Quantum Wiper Blades and Sylvania Silver Star Ultra headlights. Take advantage of the rewards from October 31st until November 13th, in-store or on AutoZone.com.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply. Offer available to AutoZone Rewards members.
Everyone can boost their digital confidence with NordVPN. All it takes is one simple click. NordVPN will block online trackers, hide your virtual location, and secure your devices from malware-infected files during downloads. It will also detect malicious websites. So catch the Black Friday deal for a 1 or 2 year plan at NordVPN.com and get 3 months for free. NordVPN, cybersecurity built for every day.
Supplies and services you need.
Boxes?
Yep.
Mailers?
Yeah, and we have UPS here in store.
Huh. What will Staples think of next?
Right?
No, seriously, I'm asking, what will they think of next?
Staples is your one-stop shipping destination. Now get 50% off shipping boxes, mailers, or tubes when you buy 5 of the same item in-store or online with 1-hour pickup. Staples, the best-kept secret in shipping. Ends 12/31. Exclusions apply. Visit staplesconnect.com/shipping for details.
There's never any FOMO with the iHeartRadio app. You won't ever have to miss out on your favorite shows and contests with this radio station again. Radio 24/7, 365. We're here when you want us. Stay connected and listen anywhere when you download the free iHeartRadio app.
With Discover, you can redeem your rewards for cash in any amount at any time. Learn more at discover.com/redeem rewards. Terms apply.
Shocker. We've been talking Bengals for 47 minutes, Kev, and the 90 seconds, if that I mentioned, Michigan. Our boy has to get all upset, get all up in his feelings.
Oh, boy.
He goes, how did I know you were going to roll with this? Funny how no video has shown Michigan doing anything like charging with the helmet and throwing a punch. Funny how that hasn't been shown. Is it funny that it hasn't been shown? Why would footage shot inside the big house, why would they leak that to basically put themselves in harm's way? It's really not that funny. It's not even that it's hard to figure out. It's very simple to understand why they wouldn't leak that video. How come no fans have done it? Fans in the tunnel? No. Just saying. So it's not that funny. Nice try, though. Appreciate the effort. David Shaw also says the big house with one tunnel for 600 games, Kev, and only once has there been an assault? Only once? Really? Are we doing this? Only one time, Kev, there's been an altercation. It's not even the first one this season. If you're going to talk about, if you're really going to break it down to be that detailed, and say only once has the cops had to get involved. But there is constantly issues in that tunnel. No, not all of them have led to this, but obviously this is the one time. It takes one time for this to happen. I hate that we're still even having this conversation, but it's like he refuses to use common sense when it comes to this particular topic. It's not that hard to figure out why this happened.
And you know what else?
Dumb people on both sides.
You know what else? The media loves it. ESPN loves it. Fox loves it because
I love it.
they show teams getting into it as they're coming out of the locker rooms. Like, if I'm not mistaken, their locker rooms are basically right across the hall from each other. Like, it's great for TV. You know, while we're watching TV at home in a blanket on the couch, drinking a beer and everything, we're watching them get into it. Like, yeah, F them up, do this, do that, do that. And then when they actually do that, we got a problem.
Not me. I don't like drama.
Oh, really?
I want to see them all holding hands and praying before the game, singing Kumbaya. In fact, I don't even want to see pregame stretches. I want pregame yoga. No band. I don't want the band. The band ruins everything. Hey, with all that all that energy that they bring, none of that. But 518-1410, 518-1410. By the way, that was a joke. The band, we learned during COVID. We learned a lot during COVID. But one thing during COVID that we really learned is that, man, as great as college football is, it is not anything without the band. That is for dang sure, especially the best damn band in the land for Ohio State games. But it's true that we're watching Ohio State games or just listening to Ohio State on the radio during those COVID years, that COVID year and a half, however you want to word it. When they didn't have the band at the actual games, what was crazy is you didn't realize how different the broadcast sounded. The broadcast sounded different on radio and on TV. You remember that, Kev, when they didn't have the band, just how different football games started? Yes. It was just very weird to me. So no, I was not taking a shot at the old bands. I think they're very crucial for all things. Especially for high school sports, everything. It just adds to that atmosphere nonetheless. Let's see what else we got. William Yelly says Nick Wright was just talking about this today, going back to our Tom Brady conversation, saying that Tom Brady is going to go 8-9 and host a playoff game and play against, wait for it, Geno Smith, Kirk Cousins, or Jalen Hurts. Yeah, I mean, Tom Brady's not going to have the hardest path to get back to his 9th Super Bowl or 11th Super Bowl or whatever it is. I mean, my goodness. Brian Schwederman says, I have been to the bank hundreds of times and only robbed it once. So there's that. You guys think he's joking? He fixed it. He goes, I've been to the bank hundreds of times, but only robbed it once. So not a problem. Come on, Shaw. Shake my head. Exactly, Brian. This is why you're moving up the list again on the Kinder Top 10 this week. Common sense prevails. Yes, of course, Brian Schwederman. It takes one time. One time too many. The big house. Give me a break. All right. It's like the big apartment with conjoining rooms. That's what we got here. All right. 518-1410. Kev, who we got?
We got Tim online too.
Tim, welcome, sir. How are you?
Hey, good. I just want to tell you that Burrow is 18-11 the last 2 years. So that's not 17 and whatever you
No,
said.
he's 17-17.
No, he's 18-11 the last 2 years.
Last 2 years, he's 17-17 as a starting quarterback of the National Football League.
Well, he has 18 wins the last 2 years. So how's he?
I don't know how you have 18 wins when you have 17 wins. He's 17-17-1 as a starting quarterback.
All right.
He won 13 last year and 5 this year.
He's won 4 this year, 5 this year. So that went up this past weekend. You are right.
And 3 of them's playoff wins, so that should count double at least.
Now we're talking I'm just reading the tweet that I have in front of me. Starting quarterback. Here, I'll even pull it up just so we're on the same page here. Give me 1 second.
Okay.
I'll pull this up. I'm glad that you called in just so maybe you could prove me wrong here live on 1410 ESPN Radio. Where the hell did this thing go? I have to be right here because I've been riding this thing all damn weekend. I've been so excited about it. I've been throwing it out there. Now I can't find it when I need it most. But I'm going to take your word for it and say that I'm wrong until I find something to prove otherwise. Does that sound like a fair plan?
That's a smart man.
Not right here. The 2020 quarterback draft class records. Tua Tagovailoa is 18-9, now 19-9 with the win of this past weekend. Jalen Hurts.
He didn't have to play his first year.
It doesn't matter. I mean, look, he's way more efficient in the amount of games that he started compared to Burrow. Jalen Hurts, 16-10. Justin Herbert, 19-20. Joe Burrow was 16-17 heading into this past weekend.
That is wrong.
What's wrong?
I just told you he's 18-11 in the last 2 years.
Why are you yelling?
I don't know.
Hey, you might be right. I'm just reading this tweet right here, and it has a blue check mark, so it has to be right. It has to be right. It has a blue check mark.
I'm just using facts. I don't know. I'm telling you.
So you one more win than I said, and you sleep better at night. Justin Herbert has more wins.
No,
Jalen Hurts, Tua.
I'm not sleeping good at all because they're playing crappy this year. But
Hey, I'm with you. I woke up at 4 o'clock, wide awake this morning. I'm running on fumes today. I'm exhausted. That's probably why I got my facts wrong. See? Can't do this.
According to Stat News, Joe Burrow is 17-17-1 as a starter.
Yes, victory is mine.
Well, both of y'all were wrong because y'all kept leaving out the one.
Nah, I have it right. I said 17-17-1.
No, he's not. That's not right.
I just said according to Stat News. I'm just saying what's on.
Are you not counting playoff games?
No, playoffs are different. Playoffs.
You're not counting the playoffs.
Yeah, so he'll be what? 1, 2, 3-1 as a playoff starter.
Correct.
Yeah, those are different stats. I'll always look at that as a different stat.
Oh, well, I'm saying the last 2 years he was 18-11 because I'm counting the playoffs.
Oh, no.
Well, I mean, of course you would. That would help your argument. I don't blame you for counting the playoffs.
Well, yeah, if you don't count the playoffs, that's kind of silly.
Well, whenever you look it up, it goes to the regular season, and then you can type in like playoffs, and then it'll pop up as 3-1.
I think they count. I'm counting the playoffs, and I think they should count double.
I knew you were going to say that. They do mean more.
Playing it, and man, just one more. If you win that Super Bowl, that'd be one more win. But he didn't win that Super Bowl.
So then, according to you, Joe Burrow is 6-2 as a playoff starter.
All right, thank you for the call, man.
All right, bye.
So I was right.
Maybe.
Nah, earlier in the show I said 17-17-1.
Oh, I didn't hear the one.
You can go check the Facebook page today. I've been arguing with people all day saying he's a 500.
You arguing?
17-17-1. So yeah, some guy I said this caller is fried. LOL. Who do we got next, Kev?
We got Ryan, line 1.
What up, Ryan? How are you, sir?
Doing good, boys. Doing good. You bring up some interesting points. But the one thing I would point out is Burrow's yet to have a normal training camp. You mentioned COVID. You talked about COVID before you took the last caller. That's your rookie year. And again, it's for all the rookies you mentioned, Hurts and Herbert, but his rookie year, your knees tore up in year 2. So not a regular training camp. And then, in year 3 this year, you get an appendectomy. But I don't know many Cleveland fans that wouldn't take Burrow over Jacoby Brissett or Deshaun Watson.
I would not take Joe Burrow over Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson is a better quarterback than Joe Burrow. Not a better person, but he's a better quarterback.
Well, I won't get into his personal preferences and anything he's done outside of the game of football, but I think when you look at the Bengals in general, and you talked about Mixon in the run game, I think what's interesting is the offensive line last year was, abysmal. What did they give up? 71 sacks. NFL record 9-1 playoff game against the Titans, but the Bengals last year, they were a very good run blocking team. They couldn't pass block to save, and this year it's flip flopped a little bit up until Carolina. And I agree with you, Carolina is not a very good football team, but still the ability to be able to do it when you haven't, I think, speaks volumes. They're sitting at 5-4 where they were last year. You guys were talking about the AFC East. They beat Miami, they've beaten the Jets. They still get to play New England, and they still get Buffalo. And who knows what's going to happen with Josh Allen's injury, because everybody had them at, top of the league. They've struggled mightily the last 2 or 3 weeks. So I think it's a week-to-week league. It's full of matchups. I don't think you're as good as you were the week before or as bad as you were the week before. So they've avoided the injury bug last year as well. They've had DJ Reader, who I think is the best nose tackle in football.
Might be getting him back. Sounds like they're going to have him for the Steelers game, so that's big for Cincinnati.
And they, you know what? And they've avoided they avoided the injury bug last year. So it's a week-to-week league. You bring up some really good points. I've been a season ticket holder for 19 years, but I like to think I'm a realist. They've got a lot of shortcomings, but it's a quarterback-driven league. I think that's your ceiling, and I'd roll with him any day of the week.
This question has absolutely nothing to do with the current Cincinnati Bengals, but since you are a season ticket holder, do you believe that the votes that you have for the Ring of Honor, do you really think that they're counting them, or do you think it's all a sham?
That's a funny question. I have no idea.
I've never heard of people voting and it being a sham.
On election
no
day.
way.
There is no way that could happen.
On election day, you went there. Yeah, on election day.
Well, let me ask you this, Ryan. Do you mail in your vote, or do you have a booth that you go to, or is it like, so, I don't know. I mean, how was this done?
Electronic what?
Electronic? Yeah, was it down that day? I mean, what's going
Hanging chads?
I think it's done via my Yahoo account for the Bengals. If you're talking about the midterm election, it could be whatever my wife tells me to do. Really,
smart man.
You bring up some good points, but I'll call back in. Your Browns did play an interesting game, and I would argue that the Ravens have underachieved to a degree. They're much different this year than they were last year.
Yeah, and but they keep winning, and it drives me nuts. I'm not gonna lie. Like, it ticks me off. Like, our teams have to play perfect games to win football games, and the Ravens just look kind of doing it, and they just go out and they make it look easy. It drives me absolutely up the wall. So,
well, you're the Bengals and Browns fans. Misery loves company. We've been bottom feeders with you guys in the North for a long time, so I would totally agree with you. I never root against Cleveland. I definitely root against Pittsburgh and Baltimore. It's interesting. I know you're a Pittsburgh boy over there, but I think they're going to have an uphill battle and spend some quality time at the bottom of the North over the next few years. But
probably
the Ravens, I agree with you 100%. They'll get theirs in due time, though. Defensively, they're good. Offensively, they're only going to be able to do what they're doing for so long. Offense sells tickets, defense wins championships.
Hey, you're actually one of my favorite Bengals callers, like a normal, rational. I was a little rude to start the call because I'm always so defensive. When Bengals fans call in, I'm always on the defensive. So I appreciate your call today, and hope to hear from you more.
You got it. Have a great day, guys.
Take care.
Thanks for being a good sport.
Yes, 518-1410, 518-1410. Next time, Kev, I shouldn't have to tell you to hit the excuse bell.
No,
a lot of excuses.
I was returning another email about what.
You should let me run your email for one day. You would be amazed how little emails you would get moving forward.
Yeah, I want to keep my job.
I still have my job, and I respond how I want to respond. Valid.
You reply to like 4 people. I reply to like 13.
Half the time, that's the thing. I don't respond to a lot of people. I'm like,
maybe that's the trick.
Especially when I get emails asking questions that I know they could find answers to, and I'm like, I'm not going to do your job for you. You can go find that. You know where it is. You were in the same meeting as me. But anyways, all right. It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash right here on 1410 ESPN Radio. David Shaw says, yeah, I'm sure you would take a quarterback that hasn't played in 2 years with 2 ACL reconstructions. I'm sure you would. I would, because he was playing really, really well, even with the ACL reconstructions. And he hasn't been missing time because of injury the last 2 years. He's sitting there, getting in trouble, preparing for the season. But okay. What bottom line is, anything Shaw thinks, think the opposite. You'll be much safer that way. Let's talk to our guy, Mr. Mark Smith. Mark, how are you, sir?
Hey, guys. How are you doing today?
Are you happy you're done pouting and crying? Oh, you're not talking about my Bengals.
I just want to know, Kevin, were you in on that yesterday?
In on what?
Deliberately not talking about one of the best games Joe Mixon's ever had in his life.
Well, you know what? If I didn't go up against Joe Mixon in fantasy football, maybe we would have talked about it. No, honestly, we just took the show where everybody else was taking it. We started with Ohio State's lackluster performance versus Northwestern, and it just snowballed into 3 hours. So we weren't able to get to the Cincinnati Bengals. I mean, the Bengals went out there and handled their business, and the Buckeyes, to everybody's surprise, was in a 4-quarter game with Northwestern. I know it was 80-mile-an-hour wind and all that type of stuff, but we didn't expect that, and I'm sure none of our callers did. I mean, we had over 40 calls yesterday, so we kind of took the show where it went. And now today, we're focused on the NFL.
Hey, so as far as the Bengals go, we are 5-4. That's where we were last year, where we made that run. The only thing different, and you've noticed, I don't know how many times, is we have no division wins. Yep. So, I mean, I don't think we can lose against a division opponent pretty much the rest of the year. That would involve beating the Browns.
You just can't lose to the Ravens again. Right now, the Ravens needs to be your main focus. Right now, the Bengals still have a chance to win this division. The problem is the Ravens don't have a very difficult schedule moving forward. The Bengals have, I think, the second toughest strength of schedule the rest of the way. So that could be something that can kind of impact them. This is why, like, not capitalizing on the easier games to start the season is going to come back to haunt them, because I even highlighted this back in, in June and July when the schedules were coming out, that, man, that's a brutal schedule to close it out, that if they do stub their toe early, and sure enough, they did. I'm not saying their season's over. It's not even close to being over. You're right. They were 5-4 last year. Still a lot of season left. In fact, last year was such a blur when they took off. We forgot that they even started out that slow. I even forgot, as much as I'm looking for things just to throw at you guys. Like, I forgot how slow they started out last year because of how hot they were to close the season out. So there's still a lot of football left to be played, but it's that schedule that's going to be a daunting task for them, and the fact that they are 0-3 in the division. They have to beat the Steelers coming out, and they can't lose to the Ravens again. That's going to be crucial. It doesn't matter division or not. They just got to win football games right now.
Yeah, I watched that Ravens game last night. I think we made the Saints look a lot. I think we played the Saints a lot better than the Ravens did last night. Even if Lamar came out and threw to 8 different receivers for his first 8 passes or whatever, I still don't think he's that good of a pocket passer. I don't care how much all the ESPN analysts want to say he's different, he's changed. I still don't think he's that good at throwing the ball. So I don't know. It's going to be rough. I think we do got a tough schedule. That's definitely for sure. But hey, I'm glad you're talking about us again. I appreciate that.
Well, I do my homework on the Bengals. Hey, how about this homework stat I found right here? Such a huge game from Joe Mixon, on Sunday, right?
Yeah.
With that big game, what he brought his average up to? 65 yards a game, my friend. 65
I
yards
know.
a game. My goodness.
And whatever his coach said to him in that meeting the other day, he needs to say it every game, because he was hitting the holes. I haven't seen him run like that ever as a Bengals player. I've never seen him with that much of just hitting the hole and going. He wasn't wasting time.
And it's only weird because if he would have done that last year, I'm not saying it wouldn't have been surprising. It would have been like, holy heck, that's a hell of a game. But it's because he's been so below average all season, and then to go from like 0 to 100 like that, I don't think that's going to be him the rest of the way moving forward. But I do think that there's something in there that they can start relying on and kind of be more balanced as far as the run pass goes. They were balanced last year. Like I said, the pass game was just so good that it overshadowed how great the run game was. He was a top 5 running back last year, not even close to that this year, but that was a top 5 performance. Actually might be one of the best performances on the ground that we've seen this year from a running back. So I don't know if we could count on that moving forward, that much contributions, but it's nice to see him at least step up and make some big plays when they needed it most. So we'll see.
Yeah, we'll be calling him Joe Chubb the rest of the year.
All right, that's enough. All right. All right, Mark, your time here is done, my friend. Your time here is done. Take care. 518-1410, 518-1410. It's funny. I was joking about Joe Mixon's averaging 65 yards a game. We've talked in the past, it's usually off-season talk, but what's the most overrated stat line that's out there? And I've always said rewarding running backs. Like, well, man, 1,000-yard rusher. That's some impressive stuff right there. He rushed for 1,000 yards last year. 1,000 yards. If Joe Mixon had 17 straight, and let's just say 16. If he had 16 straight 65-yard games, that's 1,040 yards. We would say 1,000-yard rusher. It's a hell of a season. But 16 straight 65-yard rushing games, we're like, that ain't it, boss. That ain't it. Isn't that weird, though? It's one of those weird stats that I'm like, I think we overvalue the 1,000-yard marker. It's like, how do you do it? And it's like kind of like what we that yesterday. You see more of that. You have some bad games in between or low, line games. But I've always found that fascinating. 65 yards a game is all you need to be a 1,000-yard rusher in the National Football League.
I look at it a little different because running backs aren't getting those Emmitt Smith, Barry Sanders type of carries anymore. You're not going to see guys, not even Derrick Henry is getting 35 carries a game. Those times where Emmitt Smith was getting 40 carries a game to get to over 100 yards rushing. So I think it's the fact that now we have this whole dual running back thing really going on. And you talked about it all week long. Everybody's screaming for more carries for not only Mixon, but Nick Chubb. But Nick Chubb, he only averages about 23 carries a game. Like if he was playing in the early 2000s or late 90s, Nick Chubb would be getting the ball 35 times a game. So since we're in a passing league, I think it's to be commended that these dudes are still going over 1,000 yards because they're not getting the same amount of touches that the guys did in the 90s.
No, but that's my point though. Like they're not getting as many touches as they did back in the 90s. And I think last year, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, only 7 running backs last year even eclipsed the 1,000 yard mark. To your point, doesn't happen as often. But what I'm saying is we're impressed with the 1,000-yard running back, but it's not that impressive when you think about it. If you have 16 straight bad games, that's a great season. That's what I mean by that. Like it doesn't make sense. 65 yards. No one's winning Pro Bowls at 65 yards a game. But 65 yards a game in the 6, and I'm saying 16 because the 17 is going to push people over the top. I'm saying 16 because that's how, there's a more sample size of games that long for regular season. So that's all I mean by that is that's what I just find strange. 1,000-yard rushers, 1,000-yard rushers. That's 16 65-yard games that we would consider that. It's not how you get there, or it's how you look getting there, I guess, more than anything, nonetheless. But that's what I just find fascinating with how all that works. But it's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash right here on 1410 ESPN Radio. William Yelly says the Bengals have no shot to win the division. The Ravens' schedule is like Michigan's this year, easy peasy. I mean, I don't feel good about the Bengals winning this division.
People do know that they do play the same opponents, right?
But that's the thing. A lot of the opponents coming up. So this is what I was looking at for but you've looked at the Ravens schedule coming up though. Like the Ravens are running into now the schedule that the Bengals have already played, that they're 5-4 to this point. Now they do have the Panthers. The Ravens have the Panthers up next.
Right.
Okay. And then they have the Jaguars. And then they have the Panthers. Then they have the Broncos. Then they have the Steelers. And they got the Browns, but then they got the Falcons, and they got the Steelers again, and then the Bengals. Their path to the finish line significantly smoother as far as that's concerned. And that's the thing I said to that last caller about the Ravens. They drive me nuts. Maybe it's a jealousy thing, but the Browns have to play a perfect game to win. The Bengals are the same way. And the Ravens don't look dominant doing it, and they just go out there and win. In fact, the games that they've lost their more dominating games. Like, right, Kev, like the leads over the Bills, the way they had the double-digit leads against the Bills. That was one of their most dominating games, and then they lost. The Dolphins, and then they lost. So
ridiculous.
That's what's fascinating about what they do. Even the Giants, they were dominating the Giants. I remember that was that first half. They dominated in the first half, and then they let that lead slip away.
Starting to play all 4 quarters now.
518-1410. We'll be right back.
It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash.
Justin, you're awesome, baby.
Right here on 1410 ESPN Radio.
Hey, Buckeye fans, as the official wing sponsor of your Ohio State Buckeyes, Roosters is giving away 12 trips for 2 to this year's Buckeye Bowl game. Each trip comes complete with airfare, hotel, gift bag, and 2 tickets to the big game. One bowl prize winner chosen each week, along with other cool Roosters weekly prizes. So register every week at roosterswings.com. Roosters, a fun, casual joint, and the official wing sponsor of Ohio State Athletics. Official contest rules at roosterswings.com.
Hi, I'm Coach Jim Place, and I'm proud to support Tony Shane for Montgomery County Common Pleas Court Judge. I've known Tony and his wife Annie for a long time. Something that makes Tony and the great Annie so special is they are a team. They truly care about the citizens of Montgomery County. They were born here, they're raising their family here, and the citizens of Montgomery County are something they care very deeply about. That's why on November 8th, I'm voting for Tony Shane for Montgomery County Common Pleas Court Judge.
Paid for by citizens to elect Shane.
Houday Nation, Betfred has come all the way from England to the great state of Ohio with over 50 years of sports betting experience. No emperors, no movie stars, just a sportsbook you can trust. The Betfred Sportsbook app will be available on January 1st, 2023. Until then, download the Bengals app or go to betfredsports.com and have a chance to win Bengals tickets and exclusive merchandise. Official sports betting partner of the Cincinnati Bengals. Must be 21 plus. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-589-9966.
Germain Honda Beaver Creek is your local Honda dealer. If you've been waiting to buy, now is the time. 2022 Honda Pilots with financing as low as 1.9%, 2022 Honda Passports and 2023 Ridgelines with financing as low as 2.9%, and all in stock for immediate delivery. We will save you money today. See me, Sales Manager Jason High, for all the details. We're located Route 35, just east of 675 between Xenia and Beaver Creek. Germain Honda Beaver Creek, the right car, the right price, the right way. I hope to see you soon.
Don't put it off any longer. You know it's time. Time for a bathroom upgrade by Bath Creations. Bath Creations is a leader in bathroom renovations, providing the very best value in bath and shower remodeling, and proudly made in the USA. With Bath Creations, you get a beautiful modern bathroom that's safe, comfortable, and affordable. Attention first responders, veterans, and active military. Save $500 off your purchase right now. Visit Poe Avenue in Dayton or online at mybathcreations.com. And upgrade today.
With Discover, you can redeem your rewards for cash in any amount at any time. Learn more at discover.com/redeem rewards. Terms apply.
On Twitter, make sure to give us a follow. Search 1410 Kinner for Justin Kinner on Twitter. That's 1410 KINNER. And ESPN Dayton for the station Twitter handle.
You know, it's funny, for many, many years, the Browns and the Bengals, those two organizations just get viewed at as the two of the worst, if not the two worst franchises in the National Football League. They're always the butt end of everyone's jokes and yada, yada. But I'm telling you right now, there's a franchise that many people, believe to be one of the best franchises in all of football, the Indianapolis Colts. I mean, that might be the biggest joke of an organization in football right now. I'm sorry. I have no clue what's going on with that entire situation. But the one thing that I find interesting is there was a quote that kind of stirred up some, not controversy, but conversation from Sean Payton. Sean Payton says, I do think at some point I will coach again. He has expressed interest that he knows that his TV career, this isn't going to be a long-term thing. He has expressed interest in getting back into coaching. He knows he'll coach again when the situation is right. And I think the situation that could be right could be the team that has the best quarterback available. And I still think I'm putting my money. I've always said I think the Chargers is where he ends up. I think that the Chargers right now, I know they're a little banged up, so it's kind of hard to get a true grasp of who this team is. But if they do get healthy, and even if they don't get healthy, I just do not think that their head coach is going to be the option. I think he's lost them more games than he has won, as we've talked about over basically last year. It's about Staley, of course. Mm-hmm. So I think that the move that makes the most sense for him is to go and take over for the Chargers. If I'm the Chargers, I'm doing everything I can to get him. Now, not just the Chargers. I think a lot of teams out there should do whatever they can to get him. Zach Taylor's interesting in Cincinnati because I think the dude is just bad enough at his job to warrant criticism that comes his way, but he's also just good enough to keep his job. And I think that is the worst thing. Zach Taylor, and I've used this analogy in the past. Zach Taylor is the Andy Dalton of coaches. And Andy Dalton, this was his problem in Cincinnati. He was just bad enough to warrant all the criticism that would come his way, right? But he was also just good enough to warrant keeping his job and continuing to go into the next season because he kept winning games, getting to the playoffs. Winning games in the regular season, getting to the playoffs. Just good enough to keep his job, but just bad enough to warrant criticism and everything. That's Zach Taylor for the Bengals now. Just bad enough to warrant the criticism, but just good enough to keep his job. I think that's a very dangerous spot to be in. You either want to be if you're an organization, you want your coach to be really, really good or really, really bad. Trying to do this whole in-between thing. Well, he took us to a Super Bowl. Yeah, but it's also below 500 as a coach. We got to figure out who Zach Taylor is. I think if you have a chance to go get Sean Payton, you saw what Sean Payton did in New Orleans when you had Drew Brees and you had Kamara and you had Michael Thomas and you had those weapons. I believe that this offense is very similarly built. You have a playmaking quarterback. I think maybe even a better playmaking quarterback. I'm not saying he's better than Drew Brees right now, but I think he has the physical makeup and the skill set to be as good, if not better than Drew Brees. I think the Bengals make a lot of sense for Sean Payton. The problem is as aggressive and as proactive as they've been over the last couple of years, I don't think they have it in them to go that extra step. But my question is why? You've come this far. You've killed it in the draft. You've spent big money in free agency. You've come this far. Don't let it be the coach that's just bad enough to warrant criticism, but just good enough to keep his job, the guy that keeps you from going that full mile. I think Sean Payton could be that missing piece. I would love to see. No, I would not love to see. I'm talking as just an impartial radio host here. I would love to see Sean Payton with Joe Burrow in Cincinnati. Sounds weird. It would look weird, but I think it would work. But I also think he ends up with the Chargers because I think the Chargers are going to be more desperate. They're going to throw more money his way. And then I think that's what's going to separate Justin Herbert from Joe Burrow when that time comes. I'm really interested to see this. They brought up the Colts because Colts fans didn't know they existed. Colts fans on the Facebook page are adamant, Kev. Oh, the Colts, that's the clear-cut choice for where he could end up. That is a dumpster fire of an organization. Sean Payton is closer to the end of his career than he is the middle or the beginning of it. Wherever he goes, he's going to go to the best quarterback situation. I know they may have a great draft pick, Kev, but I don't think Sean Payton's interested in going in and rebuilding. I think he wants to go take over a roster that has pieces to win and win now. I think that's the Chargers. I think that's the Bengals. Could be, who he flirted with Lamar in that conversation. Lamar's going to be a free agent at the same time as I am. Who knows? Bengals, Chargers are the two best options for him, and it's not about the teams. It's about the quarterbacks. I just think one organization is going to do the smart thing and go get him, and the other one's going to say, well, Zach Taylor, we win some games with him, and we've been to a Super Bowl. We're going to stick with him. I think that's a dangerous route to go. We'll see what happens.
Sean Payton's going to demand a lot of money. I mean, a lot of money.
As he should.
And the question for the Cincinnati Bengals is, what happens the rest of this regular season? Do they make another playoff run, obviously? And then if they don't, then how much money are you going to be willing to spend on to get Sean Payton? Everything that we know about the Cincinnati Bengals, I don't know a lot about other ownership groups. I don't know a lot about the ownership group that owns the Chargers. So I'll talk only about the Cincinnati Bengals. The Cincinnati Bengals have been known for giving coaches a fair shot, in some people's mind, longer than a fair shot, and not paying top dollar for their head coach. So that's always going to be a talking point with the Cincinnati Bengals until proven otherwise. But for the Cincinnati Bengals right now, I mean, definitely in the locker room, you got to only be concerned about right now because the season's obviously not over. I mean, you're in second place in division. You got everything ahead of you. You got division games against the Ravens, Steelers, and the Browns. So you're not out of it yet. So they don't need to be worried about who their next head coach is going to be. Now, the upper management, they may be looking out there, but we always got to remember the team can offer the world. It's really up to the person on who they want to go to. Do you want to live in Cincinnati? Do you want to live in California? Do you want to coach Joe Burrow? You want to coach Justin Herbert? You want to coach this guy? What's the salary cap situation? Is the ownership group going to be willing to go over the cap? All those things come into play because as a coach, you don't care about the salary cap. Are you going to spend to get me a ton of players? Are you going to spend this money in order to help us win a championship? Kind of like how the Rams, the big quote with them is F those picks, because they're willing to trade all their draft picks to get proven commodities, proven talent in the NFL, and they'll worry about getting picks on the back end. No matter how the Rams season plays out this year or going into next year, it's all worth it because they won themselves a Super Bowl. So eventually they'll have to pay the piper and try to trade away, those assets and try to get something in return. But each organization is different on how they view things. So Sean Payton, he's going to have his pick of the litter.
And again, everyone keeps doing the whole, well, oh, look how long they kept Marvin Lewis. Look how long the Bengals have done things in the last 2 years that they've not. The reason it's been so shocking what the Bengals have done, they didn't just magically get to the Super Bowl for no reason. They got to the Super Bowl because they started doing things that they haven't been doing for the last couple of decades, and that's drafting at a high level, developing at a high level, getting a franchise quarterback, doing what they do at wide receiver, of course, and then going out and spending top dollar on free agents. That's, all of these things that everyone said the Bengals wouldn't do, they've done. So I think it's not safe. I don't think it's fair to go down the road and say the Bengals won't do that. Well, the Bengals have done a lot of things over the last 2 years that 2 years ago we were all saying there's no way they're going to do that. There's no way. There's no way. They're coming off a season where they went to the Super Bowl. They are doing a ton of things, and I think because they've tasted that and they're realizing how tough it is to get there. And I know what you're saying, like they should be worried about this regular season, but the Chargers are also in their division too. But they're also probably looking at this Sean Payton thing. There's a lot of every business out there, you always have to be prepared for that next move. There's no such thing as, well, we're so focused on the now, we'll worry about the later. That's a bad business decision. That's a bad business model if that's the case. So we'll see what happens with that. But man, if I'm the Bengals, if you have a chance go do it. Now, will they? That's going to be the big question. Some guy on Facebook says there is absolutely nothing to suggest that Mike Brown would make that sort of change. I get that. But as I just said, there's a lot of things he's done over the last 2 years with the Ring of Honor, with the indoor practice facility. It's not like, the criticism got to him. He's been getting criticized for years for that, like in decades for that. I think you underestimate the Browns being in on Peyton if this season goes to the dumpster down the stretch and Stefanski loses the locker room. I think that's a very realistic possibility as well with Deshaun Watson being in Cleveland, because it's about the quarterback. It's about the quarterback, and can you go and win with that quarterback? The thing is, I think Sean Payton can win with Joe Burrow. He could win with Justin Herbert. He could win with Deshaun Watson. I'm not as I'm not as down on Stefanski as you and some others are. I think that we don't know who Stefanski truly is until we see him with an elite quarterback. We're going to see that. Will Deshaun be elite right off the bat? That's the other question. But I think the Browns, I think every team out there, if you're not sold on your head coach, everyone should be throwing their name in the ring to see who has a chance to get him. We'll see what happens.
No go for Sean Payton with the Cowboys.
I think what Mike McCarthy is doing right now. Who's the defensive coordinator for the Cowboys? I should ask a Cowboys fan. I can't think of his name right off the top of my head right now. It's driving me crazy. The guy who's with the
used
Falcons,
to be the Falcons head coach.
Man, it's driving. He's the next in line at this point. I don't know if it's smart to go down the defensive coordinator route for a head coach, but the Eagles seem to be doing all right at this point. So we'll see what ends up happening there. Mike McCarthy's done a fantastic job over there in Dallas.
No doubt.
I think they're one that, not saying that they wouldn't do it, but I don't think they make changes anytime soon, even though it would make sense for them to go get Sean Payton. But if they're playing well and they, make a run in the playoffs finally or do something, I know that sounds funny. We'll see what ends up happening. Thank you, Ron.
Yeah. It always scares me about coaches that go away and come back. Can we think of a coach that went to the booth and came back and it actually worked out?
Well, definitely not Urban. In college, it did work. Urban did do that technically. But in the NFL, we've been clamoring for years. There was that talk of Jimmy Johnson coming back. Not anymore. We're past that.
Well, shoot, he did come back when he went from the Cowboys to the booth to the Dolphins.
But even your old coach, Bill Cowher, the people have been clamoring for that. I think we're finally past that, where his name's officially out of the ring for a lot of these.
John Gruden.
Gruden's the only one. And it wasn't a failure, but it wasn't a success either. Every year, he got 3 years there, and I felt like they were running in place. Like they were never making drastic changes. We're watching coaches take over teams and making immediate impacts. I didn't think we got that with Gruden, but you're right. We haven't seen that. But the thing is, he's 1 year removed from the league. I don't think he's been, it's not like he went to ESPN for Fox for 5, 6, 7 years. The game passed him by. He's coached against more than 90% of the 85% of the players in this league. I don't think he's been considered out of the game long enough for us to use that comparison, I guess, to where like Gruden was out for 10 years.
Right.
Jimmy Johnson, I guess. How long was he out before he came back? That's the one I forgot about.
Jimmy Johnson.
Real quick, we only have a couple minutes because we got Jason Fitz coming up around the corner. Who's online? Who we got, Kev?
We got Jeremy, line 2.
Jeremy, how are you, sir? Welcome. Jeremy, you there?
We got Doug, line 1.
What up, Doug? How are you?
Hey, how you doing, man?
Not too bad. Yourself?
I'm doing all right. I just wanted to I want to ask you something, and I guess I look at things different, and I maybe want you to explain to me where maybe I'm wrong at the way I look at some of these things, because I think you think y'all upset the Bengals like it was an upset.
I don't think that at all. I don't think that was an upset.
Right. I was going to say, because he was like, well, with him, and y'all were going into last year, y'all were the favorite to win the division and to maybe go to the Super Bowl. But it sounds like you, and just listening to you, it sounds like you think they so much more talent than you, and they got a nice receiving core. But after that, they ain't no better than the Browns. And the Browns going into last year, they had what they thought, Odell Beckham and Landry, so they thought that they had a nice receiving core. And now you done replenished it with Mari Cooper and blah, blah, blah. And the Bengals probably got maybe one of the best receiving cores in the league, but they're not really dominating anything. They just a team that's going to barely be above 5 with that receiving core. So I just think that it's just crazy. Y'all beat them all the time, so I don't understand why people think that it's an upset or it's this strange thing that they beat them. And that's like, I called earlier and debated with y'all about Dallas and Philly. And we beat Philly by 25 straight times. We didn't beat them by 20 this time because we didn't have our quarterback. But the reason I think we were better than Philly, because we always beat them real bad. And that's the same reason why you should think that y'all better than Cincinnati. No matter how good Cincinnati might be against anybody else, they ain't nothing when it comes to the Browns. And that's how I feel about Philly. You know, they beat us this year with our backup quarterback. But, you know, 5 times in a row, we didn't beat them by 20 or 30 points. So, you saying that you don't think that, but I kind of was feeling like you think that they're better than y'all.
Oh, I definitely, and I hate to cut you off. We just have a guest coming up here, so we got to make sure we move on to that. I definitely don't think, I don't feel like that was an upset. The Browns didn't upset the Bengals. The Bengals are a 500 football team. I'm sorry, 1 game over 500 after beating up on a horrible Panthers team. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, Panthers team. I was getting them in the Falcons. That was another horrible team that they beat up on for a bit. But this is besides the point. I don't think it was an upset at all. And I definitely wasn't upset. I was very, very happy when they beat that Bengals team. So there's that. ESPN Radio's Jason Fitz going to join us next. We'll talk about that very thing. Sean Payton, which team, which quarterback, which situation makes the most sense? Can Cincinnati be in on that conversation? And, right away, Lamar Shelley on Facebook says, if Marvin Lewis stayed for 16, yes, I know you guys go to the same talking points every time, but the point is everything that the Bengals have done the last 2 years, they have done differently than what everyone said that they were capable of 2 years ago. Nobody thought that they were going to be able to get to a Super Bowl, and they did it. Nobody thought they would ever get an indoor practice facility, and they're getting it. No one thought they would ever finally get a Ring of Honor, and they're doing it. Everyone thought, Joe Burrow, that's where a career will go to die. He's flourishing there at 17-1. So the bottom line is never say never with those Cincinnati Bengals. ESPN Radio's Jason Fitz joins us next.
The Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash. Presented by Brad Mays with Home Experts Realty. Weekdays at 3 p.m. on 1410 ESPN Radio. ESPN 1410 Wing AM weather.
The mid-afternoon and early evening will be partly cloudy, a high near 60. Tonight's going to be mostly clear, a low near 40. And tomorrow's going to be clear and sunny, a high near 70. I'm Pete Spivak for 1410 ESPN Radio.
Weather is brought to you by Cullet Propane. 98% of their customers recommend Cullet. If you wouldn't recommend your current supplier, check them out at culletpropane.com.
Justin Kinner back with you here on 1410 ESPN Radio. Get ready, Ohio. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, is coming to the Buckeye State. And to kick things off, you can get started with $100 in free bets as an early sign-up bonus. Plus, when you sign up today, use my promo code Kinner, Kinner. Then you will be all set for when FanDuel goes live in Ohio. Then you can bet on all of your favorite teams and all of your favorite sports with $100 in free bets. I think that's pretty cool. All you got to do is download the app. When you register, you use my promo code Kinner, my last name, Kinner. And then you're going to have $100 in free bets waiting for you in your account when sports betting goes live here in the state of Ohio. Just download FanDuel's top-rated sportsbook app. It is safe, it is secure, and it is super easy to use. Come on, Dayton, this is your chance to get in on the action. Use my promo code Kinner when registering your account today, Kinner. You have $100 in free bets waiting for you. Come on, it's a heck of a deal. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
I always wanted to learn Spanish, but I never thought I'd have the time. Then I discovered
ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Make sure your home's heating and cooling system is in shape for the season with the experts and community trusted service that you can rely on from William Brockman & Sons Heating and Air Conditioning. We're offering exclusive savings opportunities on a new Linux system. Call William Brockman & Sons Heating and Air Conditioning at 937-222-8638 today or visit us online at DaytonHeatingandCooling.com. Conditions apply. See dealer for details. Ohio license number 14911.
Former Ohio State Buckeye Tim Williams and Kev Nash will be live at the Submarine House coming up this Saturday, starting at 10:30 a.m. They'll walk you right up to kickoff, a 12 noon kickoff matchup with Indiana, Ohio State. And I checked the forecast. I checked it twice. There's no wind. All right, there's no excuses. My goodness, the excuse spell has just been overused this week. As I've stated on yesterday's show, ad nauseum, basically, that I get that the wind played an impact on that game that Ohio State had with Northwestern, but it was still a poorly played game by Ohio State. I don't care. You're a high-level Division I football program. You're the number 2. You're the number 2 team in the country. I have a hard time believing that in a matchup against Northwestern, who also played in that same wind, I have a hard time believing that the only difference, that the gap between Northwestern, who is 1-8 on the season, and the number 2 team in the country, the Ohio State University, I have a hard time believing that the gap between those two is wind. Wind is what makes Ohio State and Northwestern equals. I don't think so. I'm sorry. Me and Kev have been more critical of Ohio State on this than most, and some Buckeye homers aren't a big fan of that, and that's totally fine. And it may mean nothing. We may get to the rankings tonight. They may stay at 2. I think Michigan should probably move ahead of them because they dominated their bad opponent. They've been more consistent as of late. We'll see what happens. But, man, there was a huge slate of great games in college football over the weekend. And joining us now to talk about it, none other than our good friend ESPN Radio's Jason Fitz. Mr. Fitz, welcome, sir.
Oh, thanks for having me. And I think you're right, by the way. I think Ohio State's offense the last couple of weeks has been one of the most disappointing. And let's not just talk about the win last week. I mean, I love the fact that everybody wants to talk about how great Iowa is defensively. And I'm not going to dispute that. Iowa is very good defensively. When you're the number 2 team in the country, you should be able to move the ball on even Iowa, because last time I checked, Iowa's okay. They're not great. Ohio State hasn't played well enough. And you guys know, I've been squarely on Ohio State's number 2 in the country. I don't think they will be tonight.
No, and that was the big takeaway from that game over the weekend. And I think the thing that was the most concerning to me, while everyone's focusing on the fact that Ohio State offensively just not being able to get that run game going. I know Mayan Williams rushed 111 yards and a touchdown and all that, and saw C.J. Stroud break out, which kudos to him. Yesterday I spent so much time being negative. Good for him, who's been against running, because, hey, he's just said before, we have running backs. I don't need to run the football. I give him credit because late in that game, he finally had enough. And he said, look, the only reason we're going to win this football game is if I, pick up these yards myself. And he did that. But a 21-7 win over Northwestern, win or not, I don't think we're being that unfair here and being critical about that. What will the committee do in your eyes, though, Jason? Because I think that many prognosticators out there still have Ohio State at 2. It's not the end of the world if they move to 3. But I thought Michigan has just been more consistent over the last month. I think at this point in November, you should be playing your best football. Michigan is, and I don't think Ohio State is. I think that's a problem.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. By the way, one of the things that really hit me about that Northwestern-Ohio State game is, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but Northwestern, I think, was 9 of 20 on third downs, and Ohio State was 4 of 16, 4 of 15, somewhere in that range. I mean, you third down efficiency matters, right? And the committee looks at little details like that so much. Michigan has just looked better, and I still think Ohio State's going to absolutely destroy Michigan. I think Ohio State can be the most explosive team in the country. They just haven't looked like it the last 2 weeks. I don't know if they're holding back. I don't know if they're keeping, bullets in the chamber and waiting for that big matchup. I don't know what's wrong with Ohio State's offense, but they better get it in line. They better get it in line quickly. The one thing I do think, though, that the committee, and not this year's committee, we just met them, right? But every year, I think there are arguments in the room where the committee just finally throws their hands up and says, all right, whatever, it'll work itself out. I think where Michigan and Ohio State fall is a little bit of that argument for this committee, because when you know that these two teams are going to play each other, what does it matter which one's ranked 2 and which one's ranked 3 right now when they're going to prove it on the field? I think there's just a moment of like, guys, let's argue about some of the other stuff when you know that you've got that matchup coming.
I think that Tennessee is in the safest spot out of anybody. They have so many big wins during the regular season. Obviously, they lost this past week to Georgia, but they won't have to play in the SEC championship game. Where does Georgia fall, and are they safe to make it to the college football playoff?
Yeah, I don't know if Tennessee's safe to make it to the college football playoff, but I think they still have the runway ahead of them. And look, this is where everybody tells me that ESPN has an SEC bias. And as always, I'll remind you, we also own the ACC network. So, frankly, as I say all the time, if ESPN, I genuinely believe if you could sit down with Jimmy Pitero, the boss of ESPN, and say, what 4 teams do you want in the college football playoff? The answer would be an SEC team, a Big Ten team, a team from Texas, and a team from the West Coast or Notre Dame. I think that's what gets the best ratings, right? But realistically, the committee is going to have a really interesting thing of what to do with Tennessee here because, frankly, Tennessee can look right at Oregon and say, hey, I don't care if Oregon wins the Pac-12. At some point, Oregon won't have a win better on their resume than what Alabama is, unless you really believe that USC or UCLA is better. I don't. So they're going to have a better win. Nobody will have a better win than Alabama. And then the flip side of it is you played Georgia better than Oregon did, right? So even if Oregon wins the Pac-12 championship, what does the committee do then with a Pac-12 champion that may not be as good as Tennessee? Like I know and I hear Heather Dinich tell us all the time, this committee values conference championships. You have to be clearly better than a conference champion if you are not and you want to get in. But I think Tennessee has shown that they can and are clearly better than a lot of these teams. So I don't think anything's a given. The question is, what's going to happen with Oregon? What's going to happen with TCU?
So Alabama's done, right? They're done because they have 2 losses. But the team that beat them, LSU, has 2 losses. And not only the week 1 loss to Florida State, go Noles, and they also got blew out by Tennessee. So what if the craziness happens, the madness happens that LSU runs the table, and running the table means they beat Georgia in the SEC championship game? What happens with LSU? Because Justin and I believe that there's no way that a team that has been blown out can make the college football playoff. Is that myth about to be busted?
I mean, that's one of the 10 commandments we joke every year of the college football playoff. Thou shalt not get blown out, right?
Yeah.
I'm with you. And by the way, 2 losses, like I think the committee's sitting there saying, for the love of God, if it takes voodoo dolls, whatever it takes, we do not want LSU winning the SEC because what do you do with the 2-loss SEC champion, right? But I also saw an algorithm Twitter account today that was breaking down all the different scenarios where Alabama can still make the college football playoff. I'm like, stop, y'all. Like, at some point, wins and losses have to matter. I don't understand. The edict is not the best. It's not the most deserving. It's the best of the most deserving. How can you have 2 losses? I don't care who you played. And still then tell me that you belong in that conversation if those 2 losses have looked the way that LSU's have. So, I think this gets disastrous for the committee if LSU wins the SEC, because then you're going to have a real conversation about now you're Tennessee sitting here saying, well, wait a minute. I know we lost to Georgia, but we slammed this LSU team. So what, are we going to put 3 SEC teams in? Like, I'm a lover of chaos. So I either want no SEC teams or 3 SEC teams just because everybody's going to hate it. But, man, even the troll in me feels dirty saying that out loud.
So in ESPN Radio's Jason Fitz with us here. Again, the second college football playoff rankings come out tonight, and what a chaotic weekend it was in college football, that's for sure. LSU, the interesting thing about them, how surprised were you last Tuesday when the rankings came out and they were sitting at number 10? Because you said, man, the committee is sitting there saying, man, come on, we don't want to have to make that decision on that. Well, it's their fault. It's why they have to make that decision, because if that's a number 15 or 16 LSU beating Alabama, now you could safely bump them up to 12, and we're still not really putting them in that conversation. But it's their fault. They put them at 10. They get that win over Alabama. I mean, Mr. Shaw, who knows it all, by the way, he thinks that they were put there to prop up Alabama. And I said, I think that's the dumbest statement ever. I don't think Alabama needs help being propped up. I mean, if they win, they're in. It didn't matter, but they lost. But your thoughts on that? Like, they put LSU there. Why was LSU at number 10? What did they do to deserve to be at number 10? I think they're playing really good football right now. But number 10, now possibly number 7 or 6, possibly. I'm very curious to see where they fall tonight.
Yeah, I didn't love that at all. And I was stunned when they came in at 10 because there are plenty of one-loss teams that were sitting around saying, why not us, right? And if I'm, frankly, if I'm UCLA, I felt pretty disrespected that LSU with 2 losses sits at 10 and UCLA with 1 loss sits at 12, right? Like, what else do you have to do? Remember a few years ago when it was Clay Helton's USC team and they started the year, I think, 0-3.
Yes.
And then they went on a run by the end of the year. They were playing some of the best football in the country, and it didn't matter because they took too many losses early on. That's how I view LSU. But I would say to Mr. Shaw, like, the one thing I would say about the College Football Playoff Committee, and I can't say this loud enough. I've talked to committee members. I've sat through the mock committee exercise. We get to do that at ESPN. I've sat in the room as people go through this process. The committee doesn't care what the Associated Press thinks. The committee doesn't care about ratings. The committee doesn't care about money. The committee doesn't have to care about any of that. What you have are a bunch of prideful people in the room that all believe that they're smarter than all of us when they watch football. I don't think that they're sitting there saying we need to prop up Alabama because, frankly, if the committee wants to put Alabama in the college football playoff and not justify it, they can. The committee members never have to actually sit in front of a microphone and speak to why they decided what they decided. Only the committee chair has to do that, right? So there isn't some moment where you'll get kicked off the committee. This concept that the committee is beefing up Alabama presumes that the committee cares what we think. They don't. They care what Alabama thinks. They don't. The committee sits in the room and they genuinely think they are the smartest football minds. And I'll tell you this, the only thing I can relate it to, because I'm not a committee member, but I am and have been for a lot of my life a Grammy voter. I take that so stinking seriously because it is an honor to vote for the Grammys. And look, not everybody's going to agree with what I think, but I have a system to how I vote. I have a system to what I listen to. I take it incredibly seriously. I listen to everything. If I don't know enough about a category, I don't vote in it. Why? Because I worked my entire damn life to get to vote on the Grammys, and there's no way I'm going to disrespect that. The committee members take the process of voting for the college football playoff members just as seriously. It is an honor to those guys. They want to fight for it, and they believe in it. So, like, there isn't a bias to the committee other than the bias that they believe they're the smartest people in the room. I can't do anything about that, but they're not jockeying for position for anybody.
You know, kind of off the radar of what's going on currently, but, you know, every Monday after Texas A&M loses, we see the graphic of Jimbo's record versus Sumlin's record. And Sumlin's record is starting to get better than Jimbo's record. And now we have Anthony Hill Jr., the number 2 linebacker, decommitting from Texas A&M. Is this the start of the decommits, and this is the start of the transfer portal situation for Texas A&M?
Yeah, and I'm glad you pointed that out because I'll tell you honestly, nobody else is talking about that right now, and they should be. I mean, how many times have I said you're not paid to be the football recruiter? You're paid to be the football coach. And Jimbo's not doing a good enough job. But when you start losing top recruits in the middle of the season, there's no reason you're losing those recruits other than they're looking around saying, nah, I don't want to be a part of that. And we are in a world right now where I think you can make the argument LSU has a ton of momentum. We all wanted to give up on them early. They have a ton of momentum they're going to build towards for the future. Tennessee has a ton of momentum. It's going to build towards the future. If you're a recruit looking around the SEC, you got options. You know, you don't just have to go to Alabama or Georgia. You can also pick other schools. But A&M now, because of the way they have played, is not on that list. And that's the thing you can't undo. If you're Jimbo, and I hated his press conference a couple of weeks ago, basically where he sat down and said, who wants to go to a winner when you can create a culture? No. Like, kids want to go where they can contend for national champions and they can get ready to play on Sundays. That's your job when you're bringing them in. Man, if you're trying to give everybody the win one for the Gipper underdog speech for recruits, then things have really gone off the rails. This is an epic fail by Jimbo. And, you know, it should be this between this and Michigan State. We should all be looking at some of these contract for coaches saying, man, there has to be a limit to what we will allow in a buyout world.
Yeah, and you know, and that's the thing too, is we got to stop paying coaches because they beat the almighty Alabamas and the Ohio States of the world. I mean, you know, Fitzgerald at Northwestern does a very good job, but I mean, they lose a lot. Northwestern loses a lot, but he got his big contract extension. Yes, because he got to the Big Ten title games, but because they beat, you know, because they challenge Ohio State because they get to the Big Ten. Purdue with Braum, he got that big major contract because of they beat Ohio State, but they haven't done anything Big Ten wise. They haven't been to a Big Ten title game. And then obviously with Fisher, with that and everything, he had that money coming in, obviously. But the thing with Sumlin too, we're not arguing that Sumlin was great, but we're arguing, you know, getting the same results from Jimbo. The only thing keeping Jimbo safe is that recruiting class. And I think you can't lose at the rate that someone was going and then losing those recruits as well. I know you said that, Jason, that you're not paid to be an ultimate recruiter. You have to be a coach too. But unfortunately, he is being paid to be the recruiter right now, hoping they can keep that class intact. But I think that's the final straw that'll break the camel's back, if you will. If that class disbands, that'll be the biggest failure of his entire career, not just losing. That's for sure.
Yeah, you're 1,000% right. And I think the only reason he still has a job is his buyouts, $85-90 million? I mean, like, that's a lot of money to just give up to bring somebody else in. But these programs are going to have to start looking in the mirror and saying, what are we doing? Not to just align with coaches, but to align with the culture that people want to be around. It takes a minute. And, this is where we do sometimes sleep on Ryan Day. Like the fact that Ryan Day came in and there was no hiccup, that's not normal. That's not usual. And if you're a lot of these programs, you got to be looking around, for example, at what Josh Heupel's done at Tennessee and say, hey, you took an irrelevant football program and you made it relevant after 20 years of just sitting there, right? You turned this thing around, and that is so rare, but that's what everybody wants. They want Heupel results incredibly fast. The question is now Heupel gets Tennessee to this platform, but now will Vols fans go in next year with expectations? And all of a sudden you go in and say, well, now losing 2 or 3 games a year is no longer acceptable, whereas they would have accepted that a few years ago. That's where Michigan State is not having that much different a year that Michigan State probably is most of the time. But you didn't pay Mel Tucker for that. You paid Mel Tucker to be a contender, and they're not. So that's where it gets really difficult.
We have ESPN Radio's Jason Fitz, real quick, transitioning over to the NFL before we let you go. Speaking of disastrous situations as far as leading a coach is concerned, I love Jeff Saturday, by the way. But Jeff Saturday with the Colts just to me doesn't make any dang sense other than the fact that, he played there. I get that he's such a likable dude and he's going to demand respect in that locker room. But what the heck is going on there in Indianapolis? Your thoughts when not only hearing that Wright got fired, that didn't surprise me, but not even less than an hour later, Jeff Saturday, who we just watched on ESPN's Get Up, is now the with no head coaching or coaching experience in the NFL at all, is now the head coach of the Indianapolis Colts. One of the weirder days in the NFL, that's for sure.
Yeah, and I think, first and foremost, I'll always transparently admit that Jeff and I are close. So, my first reaction was, oh, my gosh, that's great. And then I was like, oh, my gosh, that's weird, right? Like, I think
weird.
We all have to look at it that way. But I will say this. Jim Irsay, is at least, I don't want to say anything bad about an NFL owner, but guys, he at least comes off incredibly paranoid, right? And we've seen so much of this. This to me screams of somebody saying, look, I don't even know what I have in the locker room. So I'm going to have my buddy come in, be the eyes and the ears, and try and figure out where this thing went wrong, what's worth keeping. Like Saturday's been a consultant. I really feel like he's been a consultant with the Colts, and now he's going to be a consultant inside the locker room in a very, very weird way. So to me, they're not trying to find their real coach. They're trying to figure out what they have that they can keep and what they have that they can't keep. And it's a win-win for the Colts. If they come in and they find out that everything's right and, Saturday can right the ship for him, then he can figure out who's going to take over, right? If he comes in and is as bad as I think he will be as a coach, then they're going to end up with the top 2 pick in the draft, and they'll go out there and get themselves a quarterback, which is what this is really all about. So I think this is a very not subtle way of trying to tank while you also figure out what went wrong and who you have in the locker room at once, because there's no way, as much as I love the human being Jeff Saturday, that there's no way to expect that he's going to come in and be a good head football coach. We have no idea.
Well, the thing is, too, by the way, and he's a good friend of yours, but you got to tell him if he goes in there and wins, he's actually failing at his job. I don't think he was brought in to win, right? Like, that's not how you tank in the NFL.
Right. Yeah, no, he was brought in to make sure that they get Bryce Young or CJ Stroud, right? And he's going and the other part of it is his resume doesn't really matter. Like, Jeff Saturday is not going to walk away from this saying that I just hurt my chances of being NFL head coach because of the way I coached there. No, he's just going to walk away when it's done and say, glad I could hold the ship down, do a favor, collect a check for my buddy. You guys go and have a good time, and he'll be back on Get Up in February. That's my prediction.
Last thing for me, what do you make of Sean Payton flirting with Lamar Jackson on the Manning cast last night?
Yeah, see, here's the one weird thing, though, about Sean Payton. And look, I think this speaks to the fact that Payton wants to be back in the league next year, and Lamar Jackson, he's going to try, everybody's going to try and make a play for Lamar Jackson if they can at some point. But the other side of it from Sean Payton is like, we keep forgetting that the Saints still own his rights. He had multiple years left on his contract. So if anybody thinks they're just going to go get Sean Payton, the Saints would have to be willing to let that happen. And sure, you could say that they'll do that for draft capital, but I don't know that it's that simple. Like, there's a lot of teams that New Orleans is probably going to look at and just say, nope, we're good. Like, his contract with New Orleans runs not just through this season, but through next season too. So I'm not as willing as some of my peers to say that Sean Payton's going to be somewhere else, because especially if the Saints turn out to be as bad as I think they are, they're going to look at Payton and say, you want a coach, you can come back here. Otherwise, you just keep sitting back. Like, we ain't going to give you that.
Yeah, this is my last thing on the way at ESPN Radio's Jason Fitz. I talked about the Cincinnati Bengals a little bit ago. Zach Taylor has done just a bad enough job to warrant criticism, but just a good enough job to still keep his job in Cincinnati. I think that's a very tough spot. As an owner, I think you wish you had a more clear vision of what your coach is. Is he really good or is he really bad? He's right in the middle. I said he's kind of like when Andy Dalton was the quarterback of the Bengals. He was just bad enough to warrant criticism, but just good enough to keep winning and keep getting to the playoffs. Zach Taylor, it's like, man, if he was just a little bit worse, you could warrant moving on from him and targeting a guy like Sean Payton. Sean Payton and Joe Burrow in that offense would be nasty. Same thing with Justin Herbert over in Los Angeles right now with the Chargers. There are some interesting potential quarterback matchups for him that I think he would do wonders with. But the one wrinkle in all of that, I didn't realize that about the Saints. That's an interesting nugget that I wasn't even aware of. So thank you for that.
Well, and I'll say this about the Bengals. Rightfully so. This is a team that now has expectations, because when you have Joe Burrow, every year you're going to have expectations. And the fact is, just winning some games, being a 500-ish football team is not going to do it. And you got to look in the mirror and say, I don't care where we've been as a franchise. I care about who we are right now as a franchise. And when you have Joe Burrow, better get out there and get it done. You mentioned Justin Herbert. For all of the times that we talk about Lamar Jackson's failings in the playoffs, let's remember this. We've never even seen Justin Herbert in a playoff game. And that is an unbelievable thing to me for somebody that we've anointed as a top 5 quarterback so often in the NFL. He's never played a playoff game. So at some point when you've got this young talent, boy, you better go maximize it and you better go make something happen, especially when you have a young quarterback. If you have a young quarterback, then you better be in the playoff conversation every year if you've got the guy.
All right. ESPN Radio's Jason Fitz. Your 4 tonight is who?
I think it's going to be Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, and TCU.
Boring. Okay. That's all we needed.
I know. It's boring. It is boring. But we'll make it fun somehow.
Yes. Jason, where can people find you tonight? I know you're all over the place with rankings, reaction, and everything. Where can people find you tonight?
Yeah, Rankings Reaction is tonight, 8 o'clock at night on ESPN app, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, all the places you watch socially. Me, Christine Williamson, AJ McCarron, and we will talk to the committee chair. So the one thing I can promise you is I'm not as professional as Reese. So the questions that Reese won't ask, I will. Including last year, I think last year I asked, why do you guys hate that conference? So, let's just go. We're going to have a little bit of fun with them tonight.
All right, Jason Fitz with all his SEC bias joining us here on a Tuesday. Jason, thank you, sir.
Perfect. Appreciate you.
That's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash right here on 1410 ESPN Radio. And I did not realize that about the Sean Payton.
I didn't know that either.
So that throws that whole thing out because the Bengals aren't trading anything to go get a head coach.
No.
It was a long shot of them being willing to move on from Zach Taylor to go pursue him. But that's asking. I said you can't count out Mike Brown completely because he's made tough decisions. Not tough. He's made good decisions the last couple of years that is uncharacteristic of him. But that's a little bit too much. That's a little bit way too much to ask him to move on from Zach Taylor prematurely, potentially, to be aggressive in going after a big name head coach like Sean Payton, and then to give up draft capital to do it. That ain't happening. It's fine. He'll go end up with the Chargers, and Justin Herbert will actually win a Super Bowl, and then the Bengals will be like, well, remember that 1 year, 10 years ago when we got to the Super Bowl? That's okay. That's okay. We'll be right back.
We tried Dynovite for gut health and immune support, and after a couple of weeks, our little Gizmo was acting like a puppy again. His coat was shinier, he had a lot less scratching and shedding, and he seemed like his happy old self.
My dog smelled and scratched constantly. We bathed and sprayed her, took her to the vet, but no results. Now, a little Dynovite in her food helps Bella keep her beautiful coat with no scratching or smell.
Get 10% off your next order of Dynovite nutritional supplements for dogs at Dynovite.com.
Happier, healthier with every bite. Over 1 million pets helped with Dynovite.
When cold symptoms keep you up, try Vicks NyQuil Severe for max strength nighttime relief. Just 1 dose of Vicks NyQuil Severe starts to relieve 9 of your worst cold and flu symptoms to help take you from 9 to none. Get some rest and feel better with Vicks NyQuil Severe. The nighttime sniffling, sneezing, coughing, aching, sore throat, stuffy nose, fever, best sleep with a cold. Medicine. Use as directed.
We make decisions every day. How to spend your weekend, what to wear. But some decisions are bigger than others. Don't let others make decisions for you. Vote. Polls will be open on November 8th, and early in-person and absentee voting is available right now. No matter what you choose, you can be confident your vote is secure and your voice will be heard. Big or small, your decisions matter. Visit voteohio.gov for voting locations and hours. Sponsored by Ohio Secretary of State Frank LaRose, aired by the OAB and this station.
Hey, I'm Andy. If you don't know me, it's probably because I'm not famous. But I did start a men's grooming company called Harry's. The idea for Harry's came out of a frustrating experience I had buying razor blades. Most brands were overpriced, overdesigned, and out of touch. At Harry's, our approach is simple. Here's our secret. We make sharp, durable blades and sell them at honest prices for as low as $2 each. We care about quality so much that we do some crazy things, like buy a world-class German blade factory. Obsessing over every detail means we're confident in offering a 100% quality guarantee. Millions of guys have already made the switch to Harry's, so thank you if you're one of them. And if you're not, we hope you give us a try with this special offer. Get a Harry's starter set with a 5-blade razor, weighted handle, shave gel, and a travel cover. All for just $3 plus free shipping. Just go to harrys.com and enter code IMPACT at checkout. That's harrys.com, code IMPACT. Enjoy!
Rob tried to manage his constipation with belly pain, discomfort, and bloating day after day. After realizing it was irritable bowel syndrome with constipation or IBS-C, he found another way and finally said yes to adding Linzess.
Linzess, or linaclotide, is a prescription medicine that treats IBS-C in adults. Linzess works differently than laxatives. It lets you have more frequent and complete bowel movements and helps relieve overall abdominal symptoms, belly pain, discomfort, and bloating. These symptoms were studied in combination, not individually. Do not give Linzess to children less than 2 years old. It may harm them. Do not take Linzess if you have a bowel blockage. Get immediate help if you develop unusual or severe stomach pain, especially with bloody or black stools. The most common side effect is diarrhea, sometimes severe. If it's severe, stop taking Linzess and call your doctor right away. Other side effects include gas, stomach area pain, and swelling. There could be more to your story with IBS-C. Talk to a doctor today. Say yes to Linzess. Learn more at linzess.com or call 1-800-LINZESS. Sponsored by AbbVie and Ironwood Pharmaceuticals.
With Discover, you can redeem your rewards for cash in any amount at any time. Learn more at discover.com/redeem rewards. Terms apply.
Okay, smile naturally. Perfect.
Cam's photography knows wedding season ramps up in a flash.
Smidge closer.
They need to say I do to a studio assistant before clients go full Bridezilla.
I'm so sorry. I have to get a different lens. I'll be right back.
Indeed can help them hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. We instantly connect you with quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job description. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
It's a new day because COVID vaccines just got a big update. So all the big stuff coming up this fall? Well, now you can say, you bet I'll be there. Because updated COVID vaccines protect against both the original COVID virus and Omicron. And everyone 5 and older can get one. So this is a moment we've all been waiting for.
Find updated COVID vaccines at vaccines.gov. We can do this. Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Buckeye football season is back. That means tailgating and parties for the big game. You need the Lee's famous recipe Buckeye Bucket. It comes with 25 pieces of the delicious jumbo breast strips for only $44.99. Of course, you can add a few of their famous country side items, buttermilk biscuits, gallons of fresh brewed Lee's iced tea, or lemonade. You have the perfect recipe for a tailgate or watch party. Cheer on the Buckeyes this weekend with a Buckeye Bucket. Order today.
Have you heard? $5,000 sign-on bonus. That's right. My friends at Cordell Transportation are now hiring Class A CDL drivers for home daily dedicated lanes, no-touch freight with brand new equipment, and offering a $5,000 sign-on bonus paid over 18 months, paid orientation, company 401k. Plus, they're now hiring recent truck driving school graduates. Apply today. Online at CordellTransportation.com. Driven to succeed.
You have empty office space to fill or home office to create. You know what you need. You know what you'd like. But you also have a pretty good idea after you've shopped around the usual places what you need and what you like might not happen. Well, then you haven't been to Charles Larrick's Warehouse Outlet. Nobody has their selection. Nobody has their discounts. And every week, there's something new. If you need office furniture, Larrick's Warehouse Outlet can sell it to you for half the price and below manufacturer's selected prices. Half price and below on hundreds of items. Selection from budget to the best. Really, desks from $50 to $5,000. Filing cabinets from $25 to $500. Before you go anywhere else, do yourself a favor and come to Larrick's Warehouse Outlet. With 25,000 square feet of selection, you're not going to go anywhere else. Larrick's Warehouse Outlet at 23 McOil Avenue, Dayton. Open Monday through Friday, 9 to 6. Larrick's, continuing the tradition.
Germain Honda Beaver Creek is your local Honda dealer. If you've been waiting to buy, now is the time. 2022 Honda Pilots with financing as low as 1.9%, 2022 Honda Passports and 2023 Ridgelines with financing as low as 2.9%, and all in stock for immediate delivery. We will save you money today. See me, Sales Manager Jason High, for all the details. We're located Route 35, just east of 675 between Xenia and Beaver Creek. Germain Honda Beaver Creek, the right car, the right price, the right way. I hope to see you soon.
Your daily commute. You could do it alone. The downside is spending thousands each year on gas, parking, and vehicle maintenance, not to mention the air pollution you're causing. There is a smarter way. Introducing GoHio Commute. What is GoHio Commute? It's a free service with info on commuting options like ride matching for carpoolers, van poolers, and bike poolers, and links to local public transit providers. Go to MiamiValleyRideshare.org or call 223-SAVE for details. Ohio Commute, a smarter way.
This is Doug Ute, Executive Director of the Ohio High School Athletic Association. High school coaches can be the biggest influence on kids having a positive experience in sports. Sports set the foundation for life lessons that remain long after playing days are over.
This is Gene Smith. Please join Life Sports at The Ohio State University and the Ohio High School Athletic Association as we partner with the Susan Crown Exchange on its Million Coaches Challenge. Get involved and learn more at go.osu.edu/CoachBI.
Listen to this station anytime, anywhere on Odyssey. Odyssey is your new audio home for all the music, news, sports, and podcasts that matter to you. Odyssey. That's AUDACY.
Need to visit the Ohio BMV? Go online first. It could save you a trip. It's now easier and more convenient than ever to get what you need from the BMV online. Need to renew your driver's license? Renew online. And if you need to renew your vehicle registration, visit one of our new BMV Express kiosks or go online. If you do need to visit a BMV agency, use the Get in Line online tool, also found on the website, to save your spot and minimize your time waiting. For more services available online, check out bmv.ohio.gov.
With Discover, you can redeem your rewards for cash in any amount at any time. Learn more at discover.com/redeem rewards. Terms apply.
Shout out to ESPN Radio's Jason Fitz for taking time and hanging out with us here this afternoon on the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash. He really does not have to do that, so we're always very appreciative of all the time that he gives us. But yeah, he's been coming on the show for a couple years now, so pretty cool getting to chat with him every Tuesday, especially ahead of the college football playoff rankings release, the second one coming up here later on tonight. I think the safe bet is everyone assumes Ohio State stays at 2. Again, I always try to do, Kev, this is what I always do to try to remain fair for all of this, is I always try to take my fandom away and look at what Ohio State has done and how would I view Ohio State if I wasn't an Ohio State fan. And the way I would view Ohio State if I wasn't an Ohio State fan is the way Ohio State fans view everybody else. I had this conversation with someone on social media earlier on today. They were talking about how crazy I was for thinking that Ohio State would be jumped by Michigan in the polls. So and this is a guy that constantly brings up, like Shaw, very exhausting, brings up the SEC bias stuff. And I said, well, let me be very clear. If there is an SEC bias, there is also an Ohio State bias as well. So you cannot yell SEC bias as a victim. You cannot use the SEC bias to make you a victim in this as an Ohio State fan, because I firmly believe that at this point of the season, if you can get pushed around by Northwestern and still remain the number 2 team in the country, I don't ever want to hear SEC bias out of any else's mouth, because there is a Buckeye bias as well. And that's not a bad thing. That has been well earned, and that is called respect. And that is called, like, I get it. I'm not going to be mad if, like, someone said, can't believe you guys are a Buckeye affiliate and they let someone who is going to be angry at Ohio State I will not be mad. That's great if they're number 2, but I try to look at it through like non-fandom goggles and just try to be critical, because I think that that's what's fair to do. If Alabama, or let's just say Georgia or anyone else that is still remaining at the top, if they struggled with an embarrassment of a program like Northwestern, you would be saying, how could Alabama remain number 2 winning 21-7 over, you know what I mean? Like, we would just eviscerate that. We would be all over it. We'd kill it. So that's all I'm trying to say is, no, there is a Buckeye. If there is such thing as an SEC bias, there is such thing as a Buckeye bias, because Ohio State has made the playoff while losing to the actual Big Ten champion before. Ohio State had their conference just changed rules in the middle of a COVID season, and college football was like, yeah, that's probably a good idea to make sure that Ohio State got into the college football playoff. Stop with this SEC bias stuff. It's just as guilty about Ohio State as anything else. Ohio State constantly gets the benefit of the doubt. Always. They made the very first, the year that they won the national championship, they were almost let in as an FU to the Big 12 for not having a conference champion. TCU should have been in over Ohio State that year. Glad they weren't, but they should have been in over Ohio State that year. And the only reason TCU didn't get in that year is because they were trying to send a message, get a conference championship, Big 12. Message received, they got a Big 12 championship right away, right? Like, so there is, stop with the SEC bias. If you say that, then you better acknowledge the Buckeye bias as well. And I bring that up because people try to use the SEC bias as why Ohio State's limited and something. They're not limited. They are forgiven for a lot. And this is going to be proof tonight when they're number 2.
I don't scream SEC bias. I scream brand bias. That is my thing. I think that bigger brands get longer leashes. They get more chances than others. I mean, you talked about it when Ohio State got into the first college football playoff. I mean, TCU was sitting pretty until they weren't sitting pretty anymore. And I mean, I know Ohio State took Wisconsin to the woodshed and they beat them with, I forget the final score, but it was a lot.
50-0.
It was a goose egg, and we had a whole bunch of points, and it was fun. It was a blast. I was there, by the way, and it was awesome. And then I remember being at watching us get in. I was still living in Miamisburg. Matter of fact, I was living in Miamisburg at our apartment, and I'm just sitting there on pins and needles watching them reveal the teams, and I'm like screaming, running around my apartment like, we're in. We got Alabama. But more importantly, we're in, and we still have a chance to win this thing.
It's like the scene from Coach Carter. We're in. Who'd we get? St. Francis.
I'm the real Crane.
Yeah. I'm like, we're in.
Kenner, a movie that Kenner knows.
They're like, who we got, Coach? Like, oh, we're in. They're clapping, high-fiving. They're happy. Who we got, Coach? St. Francis. Oh, that was that year.
Everybody looked at
everyone.
Junior.
Who we got? We got Alabama. Oh, but, you know, by the way, F that movie, by the way. Like, I know that was based off a real thing, but, like, I watched that. I remember watching that live. Like, it's a movie. Of course they're going to win. They lost. That's why it's the best, one of the best sports movies ever. It never gets love. It never gets attention. It was awesome. And by the way, that's one of my favorite movies he's ever done. And I don't know, maybe it's because I'm a big basketball fan, but I absolutely love him in that role as Coach Carter, by the way. But anyways, continue.
What about Pulp Fiction?
I don't know.
Oh,
Pulp Fiction sounds like a chick flick. Is that a chick flick?
No, it is far from it. It has obviously Samuel L. Jackson, has Uma Thurman's in that.
She Poison Ivy and Batman.
She was.
See, I know my flicks.
John Travolta was in that. Classic. Vin Raines is in that. Everybody get in the chat. Tell Kenner how good Pulp Fiction was. But no, like I think there is a brand bias, and Ohio State gets off because of their brand, and so are the other teams. And that's how college sports works. I mean, it works like that in March Madness. It works like that in the college football playoff. The guys on the come up have to do a little bit more, and that's just how it has to be, unfortunately.
Yeah, like it is supposed to be about this year and this year only. But Ohio State, because of the history and the tradition of the program, they get forgiven for a lot. They get the benefit of the doubt. Let's be clear. The only reason they're the number 2 team in the country right now and not Michigan before tonight's poll, everyone's right. Every Michigan fan out there that screamed about Ohio State playing nobody in their non-conference as well, even though I consider Notre Dame still somebody, but I know that this is not a very good Notre Dame team this year, although they are coming off that win over Clemson.
Back-to-back wins over ranked opponents.
But they are right. That is, they did not play, through no fault of theirs. They attempted to play a very tough non-conference. Notre Dame has just been very, very below average this year. So my point is that them and Michigan have played the same soft schedule, basically. And because of the history of Ohio State being so dominant in recruiting and everything, they got the benefit of the doubt. They're the number 2 team in the country. That's what's going to happen tonight. Michigan made the playoff last year for the very first time ever. They beat Ohio State again this year and make the playoff again. Michigan's going to start getting those benefit of the doubt pushes into the playoff. TCU has done nothing for us to truly believe that their 8-0 start or 9-0, whatever it is, start. They've done nothing for us to truly believe that that is a legitimate 9-0. I mean, it's 9-0, you know what I mean, but like a legitimate number 4 team in the country start. We hate that. We don't like it, but guess what? That same bias will exist in the 12th team.
But see, the thing is, and why I say there's brand bias, if Oklahoma had that record, Oklahoma would be in that spot.
Yes. And are we wrong in saying that?
What has Oklahoma done that TCU hasn't done?
I mean, they constantly win the conference and they constantly get to the college football playoff.
And every year that Oklahoma didn't win it, TCU has won outside of last year. That's why I say with brand bias, it's Oklahoma, it's the Sooners. It's like if it was Texas, they would be up there.
It's recruiting bias. I mean, I know we talked about this already. I don't mean to repeat a segment, but I do believe this is why it's the recruiting bias as well. Oklahoma's undefeated. And we know that it's legit because they have one of the best recruiting classes on this roster right now. TCU doesn't. TCU doesn't recruit. I think that's Michigan's problem too. They have good players, and the one thing I'll give Harbaugh this: every year we say that they're going to be nothing, and they end up being better than we think. And I give that to Harbaugh because there's players on Ohio State that this team should be untouchable, and I don't think Ohio State develops every single person that's on that roster. I'll give Michigan that they develop a little bit better. Maybe not NFL talent, but I just mean develop you know what I mean? I think Harbaugh does get a very lot out of a roster that is one of the better rosters in college football, but it's not like we're not bragging about Michigan on National Recruiting Day ever. And yet he's right there going toe-to-toe with the team that always is there, and that's Ohio State. So I'll give Michigan and Harbaugh that. That's the only compliment I'm going to give them as far as that's concerned. But I do believe that plays a role in it. So when we see an undefeated TCU team, okay, who have they beaten? Take a look at that. Okay, they have some top 25 wins, but who's on their roster? Solid performing kids, but these aren't not a lot of the elite teams were going after these kids. Who did they get these kids from? Who do they beat out to get these kids? That stuff matters too. You are right though. Oklahoma, LSU, brand bias. That I would talk about them in recruiting, but they lost a lot of their recruits when Chip Kelly came in, not because he came in, but it's when they moved on from Orgeron. Remember, they were losing guys left and right. It's not like this team is made up of guys from those dominant recruiting classes from a couple years ago. I think it's also tough to gauge a team off of recruiting rankings because of the transfer portal. Like Ohio State's top recruiting class, that they have that's not the number one, but their top recruiting class that they signed this year. That class ain't going to mean squat here in the next 2 years when half these kids realize I don't have a path to be a starter, so I'm going to bounce and go elsewhere. That's the case, everywhere. But I think the transfer portal's made it difficult to gauge that as well. That's all I'm saying is I don't think it's that unfair. Everyone's trying to say it's unfair what the committee does with that, but I think it is kind of fair. I think they're using more common sense than we give them credit for, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, so where do you come with Alabama and the demise of Alabama? Like, I hear a lot of people saying that Alabama's done. And then, Fitz even brought up some algorithm out there thinks that Alabama could still make the college football playoff. I mean, Alabama's done for the college football playoff, right?
I mean, what Fitz just said, it kind of threw me off. Kev, there's not one path that makes sense for me. I think it's a long shot for LSU, and they have a obvious path. They went out. That means they would have beaten Alabama. That means they would have beaten Ole Miss. That means they would have beaten Georgia, and they would have done it in the SEC championship game. And I'm not arguing that they should be in the playoff, but I'm just saying there's a legitimate argument that they lost twice. Yes, they lost twice. That's why they shouldn't be in it. But what you're also saying is a team that beat Ole Miss, Alabama, and Georgia and an SEC champion shouldn't be in the playoff. That's what you're also trying to say. But the brand that exists there for the LSU. That's another prime example right there.
Yeah, I think that Bama is done. I mean, we're doing a lot of mental gymnastics to even keep them in the conversation. I mean, we're talking about all right, if Georgia loses to their rival Georgia Tech, and then this happens, and then this happens, and then shoot, Pac-12, you never know what's going to happen. Utah could still win that, which is actually legit. Utah could still win the Pac-12 with 2 losses.
Does Utah have 2 losses?
Yeah,
they have 2 losses. USC has 1. Yeah, USC is the real one. I think that them and Oregon, I think, are the only 2.
And yet, I kind of looked at the post and it's saying that USC loses to Notre Dame and then they're out, but USC beats UCLA and they're out, and basically is the hopeful that is Oregon and Utah in the Pac-12 championship game. Utah wins it, so that eliminates them from the. It's a lot going on here. It's kind of like the team in the NFL that's watching on the last week of the regular season, hoping for ties and hoping that their team wins, and somehow they backdoor their way into the college football playoff. As for Alabama in the long term, I don't think they're done and they're about to fall off the face of the earth, but I do think their reign of terror, so to speak, is gonna not come to an end, but slow down. It'll be more realistic. All right, this season, they're real great. So every third season, they're the national championship instead of every other season, they're the national champion. I think we're about to witness the Georgia Bulldogs go on a tear. I think it's their time to shine. I
think it could be as dominant as what we just saw with Alabama, because maybe I'm overreacting to that win over Tennessee. It's not like I was big on Tennessee. And I'm not saying I was wrong about Tennessee. That's still a very good football team. But man, Georgia, that looked like a team of men going up against a team of 20-year-olds, I guess, if that makes sense. That was something.
For me, when you have programs like a Georgia, or even back in the late 90s, early 2000s, like a Miami, when you can solely recruit your area and don't have to go anywhere else, and you're still the best, they win it this year. Watch out, because everybody in Atlanta is going to want to go to Georgia. They're not going to be like, oh man, I'll go to Clemson now. Oh, I'll go to Alabama. Oh, I'll go to Florida. I'll go to no. They're all going to go to Athens. They're all going to stay home, so to speak, and go to play for their team. Ohio State is a national program. We recruit from all over the place. But when you're the program and you're recruiting in probably the top 3 recruiting beds in America, and they all want to come to you, we might be witnessing something crazy happening in Georgia. And they haven't even kept their 5-star quarterback. Their 5-star quarterback left and came to us, So imagine when they get the 5-star quarterback. They're running out there with a walk-on quarterback.
They're doing what Alabama was doing.
And the walk-on quarterback is balling.
They're doing what Alabama was doing before the college football playoff changed how teams build their offense in college. You know what I mean? They're just out manning and out muscling you.
Yeah.
And eventually when they add that skill to the power, look out. That's all she wrote. SEC bias, though. We'll be right back.
Physical.
You win that one.
Listen, stream, watch. It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash, right here on Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM.
At Harley-Davidson of Xenia, the atmosphere is positively electric as we look to the future. Our name may have changed, but Harley-Davidson of Xenia has been locally owned since 1984. Under our new management, the staff and store are buzzing to get you set up for the open road. Whether you're shopping for merchandise, a new bike, or just need some maintenance on your current ride, Harley-Davidson of Xenia is here for you. Visit us online to learn more and to place a reservation on your new bike. hdofxenia.com.
If you need new roofing, siding, or gutters, skylights, or patio enclosures, if you're a homeowner or business and need someone you can trust, don't take a chance. Enhance with Lance. Lance Roofing and Siding in Fairborn has been satisfying customers since 1993 and hold an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. Lance Roofing and Siding, 8460 Dayton Springfield Road in Fairborn. Call for a free estimate at 864-2722. That's 864-2722 or online at lanceroofing.com.
Are you sick and tired of living with that constant pain in your knees and back? You know, joint pain doesn't just keep you from doing what you love. It affects your job, your relationships, even simple things like getting dressed. Hey, it's Keith Byers. It's time to call QC Kinetics. QC Kinetics uses advanced regenerative medicine to restore and repair damaged joint tissue, giving you your life back. Hips, shoulders, elbows, they can all be treated with natural biologics from your own body. Powerful healing agents, highly concentrated. If you're tired of steroid shots that don't work, or if you're trying to avoid surgery, call QC Kinetics now to schedule your free consultation. Learn about these exciting new cutting-edge treatments for pain caused by arthritis or injury. No drugs, no pain meds, no downtime. This is an all-natural treatment that can get you lasting relief. People here are raving about the results. Call now. Appointments are available for the coming week. QC Kinetics. Call 937-936-0325. That's 937-936-0325.
Hi, I'm Coach Jim Place, and I'm proud to support Tony Shane for Montgomery County Common Pleas Court Judge. I've known Tony and his wife Annie for a long time. Something that makes Tony and the great Annie so special is they are a team. They truly care about the citizens of Montgomery County. They were born here, they're raising their family here, and the citizens of Montgomery County are something they care very deeply about. That's why on November 8th, I'm voting for Tony Shane for Montgomery County Common Pleas Court Judge.
Paid for by citizens to elect Shane.
Germain Honda Beaver Creek is your local Honda dealer. If you've been waiting to buy, now is the time. 2022 Honda Pilots with financing as low as 1.9%, 2022 Honda Passports and 2023 Ridgelines with financing as low as 2.9%, and all in stock for immediate delivery. We will save you money today. See me, Sales Manager Jason High, for all the details. We're located Route 35, just east of 675 between Xenia and Beaver Creek. Germain Honda Beaver Creek. The right car, the right price, the right way. I hope to see you soon.
With Discover, you can redeem your rewards for cash in any amount at any time. Learn more at discover.com/redeem rewards. Terms apply.
ESPN 1410 Wing AM weather.
The mid-afternoon and early evening will be partly cloudy, a high near 60. Tonight's going to be mostly clear, a low near 40. And tomorrow's going to be clear and sunny, a high near 70. I'm Pete Spivak for 1410 ESPN Radio.
Weather is brought to you by Cullet Propane. 98% of their customers recommend Cullet. If you wouldn't recommend your current supplier, check them out at culletpropane.com.
You have empty office space to fill or home office to create. You know what you need. You know what you'd like. But you also have a pretty good idea after you've shopped around the usual places what you need and what you like might not happen. Well, then you haven't been to Charles Larrick's Warehouse Outlet. Nobody has their selection. Nobody has their discounts. And every week, there's something new. If you need office furniture, Larrick's Warehouse Outlet can sell it to you for half the price and below manufacturer's selected prices. Half price and below on hundreds of items. Selection from budget to the best. Really, desks from $50 to $5,000. Filing cabinets from $25 to $500. Before you go anywhere else, do yourself a favor and come to Larrick's Warehouse Outlet. With 25,000 square feet of selection, you're not going to go anywhere else. Larrick's Warehouse Outlet at 23 McOil Avenue, Dayton. Open Monday through Friday, 9 to 6. Larrick's, continuing the tradition.
The Wendy's $3 breakfast deal is here. Get a bacon or sausage, egg, and Swiss croissant, plus a small seasoned potatoes. That's a better breakfast for just $3 in 3 easy steps. 1, wake up. 2, get out of bed. And 3, head to Wendy's for your $3 breakfast deal. Choose wisely. Choose Wendy's $3 breakfast deal.
Limited time only. Participating U.S. Wendy's during breakfast hours. Select a request $3 breakfast deal in order to obtain discount. Not valid for a la carte or combos orders. Price and participation may vary in Alaska and Hawaii.
Today on Hey Culligan, soft water, cleaner environment. What do you say, Greg?
Hey Culligan, are you saying if I have a Culligan high-efficiency water softener, I'm also helping the environment?
It sounds like you're saying it, Greg, and yes, you are, because with the Culligan high-efficiency water softener, you'll use less detergent, soap, and harsh chemicals, and that's good for the planet.
Now you're saying it.
You bet I am, Greg. Soft water and a cleaner environment is already on the way. Let us help you out with a free in-home water test from a local Culligan water expert at Culligan.com.
This is for the men who never settle, the ones who miss the fairway all day and still pull out the big stick, the type of guys who will always prefer to be behind the grill than in front of the camera, and the men who never let their friends forget about a high school nickname. This is the Lodge mentality. This is Twin Peaks.
Who wants to settle for a single TV? With more TVs, bigger screens, plus our fabulous scenic views, there's more to watch at Twin Peaks.
It's pro time because at Lowe's, it's Provember. Save big with inventory you can count on, like Flex products or DeWalt power tools starting at just $99. Plus, Lowe's MVPs members earn up to 3 times bonus points per dollar on select items. Save all Provember long. Bonus points calculated before taxes and fees after applicable discounts, if any. MVP's Pro Rewards Program terms and restrictions apply. See Lowe's.com/L/Pro Loyalty terms. Subject to change. Prices valid from 10/17/22 to 2/3/23 or until supplies last.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today? Thinking about gas mileage. You know, changing your oil with a full synthetic oil like Mobil 1 can help your engine get more miles. Right now, you can get 5 quarts with an STP extended life oil filter for only $37.99. Get everything you need for better fuel efficiency at any of our 6,200 stores or on AutoZone.com.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
Need a U.S. passport? We can help. Hi, this is Mike Foley, your Montgomery County Clerk of Courts. Visit one of our convenient auto title locations in Huber Heights, Clayton, downtown, Moraine, and Centerville. Make us your first destination before you travel abroad. No appointments ever needed. We do passports.com for more info.
Have you heard? $5,000 sign-on bonus. That's right. My friends at Cordell Transportation are now hiring Class A CDL drivers for home daily dedicated lanes, no-touch freight with brand new equipment, and offering a $5,000 sign-on bonus paid over 18 months, paid orientation, company 401k. Plus, they're now hiring recent truck driving school graduates. Apply today. Online at CordellTransportation.com. Driven to succeed.
Keep your vehicle running smoothly with automotive products at Menards. AC Delco batteries set the standard for performance and reliability. These batteries feature an impact and brake-resistant case with corrosion-resistant terminals and a no-maintenance design to ensure a long-life performance. Don't be left stranded this winter and pick up your AC Delco Advantage battery today. All batteries are 11% off at Menards. Savings are mail-in rebates. Some exclusions apply. See store for details.
Save big money at Menards.
Dell's early Black Friday starts now with savings on popular PCs powered by 12th Gen Intel Core processors. Call 877-ASK-DELL.
Rob tried to manage his constipation with belly pain, discomfort, and bloating day after day. After realizing it was irritable bowel syndrome with constipation or IBS-C, he found another way and finally said yes to adding Linzess.
Linzess, or linaclotide, is a prescription medicine that treats IBS-C in adults. Linzess works differently than laxatives. It lets you have more frequent and complete bowel movements and helps relieve overall abdominal symptoms, belly pain, discomfort, and bloating. These symptoms were studied in combination, not individually. Do not give Linzess to children less than 2 years old. It may harm them. Do not take Linzess if you have a bowel blockage. Get immediate help if you develop unusual or severe stomach pain, especially with bloody or black stools. The most common side effect is diarrhea, sometimes severe. If it's severe, stop taking Linzess and call your doctor right away. Other side effects include gas, stomach area pain, and swelling. There could be more to your story with IBS-C. Talk to a doctor today. Say yes to Linzess. Learn more at linzess.com or call 1-800-LINZESS. Sponsored by AbbVie and Ironwood Pharmaceuticals.
Make the hiring process work for you. With Indeed's end-to-end hiring solution, you can attract, interview, and hire candidates all from one place. Start at Indeed.com/credit.
Whether you're at home, at work, or in your car, tune in to ESPN 1410 Wing AM or stream us live at wingam.com.
Justin Kinner, Kev Nash, back with you here on 1410 ESPN Radio. Let's see. Yeah, Ron Howard keeps trying to call. We told him he's banned until January. You're in timeout, Ron.
Goodness gracious.
You're a veteran caller of the program, too, and you should know better.
Veteran offender.
Yeah, you keep breaking the rules. Them's the rules.
Rules are the rules, right?
Rules are the rules. And you done did piss Kev off. It takes a lot to do that. Once you get on his bad, so like I would have probably let you back on by now. But Kev's like, oh no, am I right?
Nope. You know why?
It's
It's gonna be
co-parenting thing we got going on with Ron right now.
You know what it is? The bosses are gonna come to me. They're gonna yell at you, and then they're gonna come to me like, Kev, how'd you let that happen?
And I'm gonna be like, yeah, it's a great question, Kev. What's going on?
They're gonna get mad at you, and then they're gonna look at me like, what happened? You're there to keep everything on track.
So that's
and I do a terrible job of that.
So last night we'll get into the Dayton Flyers coming up here in just a moment. They pick up a opening season win over Lindenwood. It's always tough, right away. Everyone last night by the way, that's what you wanted to see. This is the first time heading into a college basketball season where it just feels like heading into a normal college basketball season. But Mark Adams, who we have had on the show a lot, and we're going to have him on here in the immediate future too, as we get kind of further into basketball season. But he tweeted out something earlier today that I thought was really interesting, Kev. He goes, opening night of college basketball came and went. Due to lack of leadership and creativity, it felt like a scattered evening with no real focus. We need to celebrate our sports. You don't have to. Just ignore him. He's going to keep calling in. He's breaking the rule. I'm going to block him. But no, Mark Adams tweeted this about college because yesterday the college basketball season tipped off.
Mm-hmm.
Opening night of college basketball came and went due to lack of leadership and creativity. It felt like a scattered evening with no real focus. We need to celebrate our sport in a more meaningful way. No leadership means opportunity lost. And I got to thinking about it. Like last night, Dayton Flyers fans at UD Arena. You didn't care that it was Lindenwood. You just wanted to go see your Flyers. And I think that's kind of the treatment college basketball gets. A lot of times we don't care who you're opening up with. We don't care about the matchup. It's just, let's go just see our team. Like finally we get college basketball back. But I think that is a horrible way to do it. I thought about it. I'm like, for a lot of you out there who aren't big baseball fans, opening day feels like a big deal. It feels like opening day is a major sporting event. NFL week 1, it doesn't get any better. Waking up on week 1 of the NFL season, doesn't it just feel that Sunday just feels special? It feels different. That's even NBA. The NBA takes their biggest matchups. You don't have to be an NBA fan. And for those of you out there who cares about the NBA, who cares about you? Bottom line is we're talking NBA for a second. NBA, the way the season tips off, it feels big. You're getting NBA Finals rematches, Eastern-Western Conference rematches. You're getting star versus star. They are putting on the biggest show possible because they want to let you know the season's here. Like, tune in, biggest matchup, biggest player matchups. Tune in here. Opening day in baseball. College football, right away, game day's back. Even if your team's not playing someone of significance, there is going to be a major week 1 matchup that is going to let everyone know college football's here. Basketball didn't do that. And
they used to have
that 24-hour.
Yes, I was just about to say that the midnight. Not midnight madness, but they would start playing games at midnight and go all the way around. And sprinkled in there, you'll have some pretty entertaining matchups. And I know everybody's going to say, "Well, college basketball really doesn't get started until that Christmas break with all our classics." The Battle of Atlantis, whatever they're gonna. Coaches versus Cancer up in New York, and then the playing on the battleship out there in the West Coast, and the Nike Invitational. That may be true, but it shouldn't take till then for everybody's entertainment value or passion to ramp up about college basketball. Like, we want to see these matchups earlier in the season. Like, it'd have been awesome to have, I don't know, obviously we're not going to get Duke, North Carolina week 1, but Duke versus UCLA, or I don't know, Ohio State versus name a brand opponent, or Ohio State versus UC, like just something to get the juices flowing. God forbid, Wright State versus UD to tip the season off, like just to get things ramped up. Like, man, college basketball is here. Let's make some noise. Let's get excited about it. And then, we all know that NFL is king, but like Monday Night Football is still dominant, and you got college basketball open it up against Monday Night Football. Just not a good look. You probably should have dropped that on a Tuesday or something like that where nothing else is going on.
And there's going to be some of these invitationals to start the season, some of those big time, the Maui's still a couple weeks away and all that, and I get that. But like, and all of that, they kind of slowly roll it out. I just wish college basketball, I love that 24-hour marathon. But are we in the wrong on that? Do you guys miss that? 518-1410 or live on Facebook and YouTube. Your thoughts on that? That I remember that even being in high school because I just remember teachers would always have that on. Like there was only 2 times throughout the high school, my high school years that the teachers would allow games to be on, during class. And that was the Big Ten championship. We always watched Ohio State in the Big Ten tournament. You know what I mean? Like no matter what classroom it was just really cool. I just always remember that there was something cool. For one, that was always my favorite time of year too, because you're coming out of winter, starting to warm up a little bit. You know what I mean? Like the end of the school year is coming up. College, March Madness is a great feeling. But then we would always do that too for the tip off to the season as well. Basketball practice is about to start. Like you just felt, I missed that. Like college tipped off yesterday. It doesn't feel like anything. I'm like, yeah, I guess college basketball's here. So with that, the Flyers opened up last night at home, 73-46, a win over Lindenwood. And this was an opportunity. There's so much hype and it's a highly anticipated season. They're in the top 25 coming in. This was not a matchup. This is my point about last night. Like Flyer fans went to UD Arena. They didn't care about the matchup. They didn't care about Lindenwood. No one knows anything about Lindenwood. Lindenwood came in and did their job. Their job was to come in, get their ass kicked, collect a check, and go home. That's what their job was, and they did it soundly, by the way. But UD wins 73-46. With the injury to Malachi Smith and still no timetable of when he can return, or at least one that has been made public, or if there is one that has been made public, I have not come across it yet. So for me, no timetable for his return. There is a player in Mike Sheravamps, and I really hope I'm saying his name correctly. That's how I pronounced it when I was calling his games, at the Flying to the Hoop Top Gun Showcase and some of the other work I did for him and his teams. But Mike that kid is something special. The one thing, my favorite thing about him, you go to these high school games, everyone's like, oh, I want to see if they could dunk. I want to see if they, you know what I mean? Like take guys off the dribble. This dude has a vision, like on the floor. Like he just sees the floor. He sees the open man. And like, he makes like these very crazy passes. And he did that last night. That was my favorite takeaway about last night. Deron Holmes, I mean, he did it 13 points, 5 rebounds, a couple blocks and some steals. He even had 3 assists, a very packed stat line for Deron Holmes. But to me, it was Mike Sheravamps. He got 29 minutes. It was balanced minutes across the board for a lot of the starters. No one played more than 30 except for Tumani Camara, who played right at 30. But, Deron Holmes, 28 minutes, Blakeney, 28, 29 for Sheravamps, 28 for Kobe Elvis, and Camara had right at 30. And then, Mustafa Amzil, who, with 24. Bottom line is, nothing really stood out last night to me. It was balanced scoring across the board. Deron Holmes with 13, Blakeney with 13. Sheravamps had 10 points, 5 assists, and 7 rebounds. Like, this kid's special. I'm a big fan. Like, that kid right there. And by the way, my other favorite player for you didn't even play last night with Malachi Smith. That kid is an energizer bunny when he's out there, man. Like, his motor does not stop. So you get that type of energy with him, and then of course you get Sheravamps out there together. Look out! But their ability to make passes is my favorite thing about Sheravamps. Who can shoot, he can score. He's very skinny right now. He'll put on some weight as time goes on. But for those of you who had a chance to see UD up close and personal last night, your thoughts, 518-1410, or live in the chat section on Facebook. Really curious what you guys thought. Not a whole lot to take away. Lindenwood's a horrible basketball team. There's nothing. I don't think we learned anything about UD last night. They went out there, they did what they were supposed to. My only takeaway is that Sheravamps kid is special. I mean, and if we're going to find out how he matches up against a much bigger opponent. They have SMU coming up on Friday night. So we'll see what happens there. But I don't know if did you get a chance to watch the game last night?
I didn't. I only saw the highlights. Lots of dunks.
Mongolian Mike, fan of his. Kid's special. Your thoughts, 518-1410 Flyer fans. We'll be right back.
The Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash. Presented by Brad Mays with Home Experts Realty. Weekdays at 3 p.m. on 1410 ESPN Radio.
Don't put it off any longer. You know it's time. Time for a bathroom upgrade by Bath Creations. Bath Creations is a leader in bathroom renovations, providing the very best value in bath and shower remodeling, and proudly made in the USA. With Bath Creations, you get a beautiful modern bathroom that's safe, comfortable, and affordable. Attention first responders, veterans, and active military. Save $500 off your purchase right now. Visit Poe Avenue in Dayton or online at mybathcreations.com. And upgrade today. Hi, I'm Coach Jim Place, and I'm proud to support Tony Shane for Montgomery County Common Pleas Court Judge. I've known Tony and his wife Annie for a long time. Something that makes Tony and the great Annie so special is they are a team. They truly care about the citizens of Montgomery County. They were born here, they're raising their family here, and the citizens of Montgomery County are something they care very deeply about. That's why on November 8th, I'm voting for Tony Shane for Montgomery County Common Pleas Court Judge.
Paid for by citizens to elect Shane.
Make the big game sound even bigger with your new TV and sound system from Audio Etc. There is nothing better than a home theater or high-fidelity music system from Audio Etc. 4K is amazing, but just imagine the 8K experience. Come to Audio Etc's crazy cool showroom today and experience 8K TVs and projectors, short throw projectors from 100-inch to 130-inch, all the way to your high-end dream system. Audio Etc has tons of new inventory in stock, while everybody else is back-ordered or out of stock. Get special deals on a TV and your dream system today. Audio Etc can bring any big game home. It's better than being there. You have to see it to believe the incredible quality of the picture and sound. If you can't afford your dream system, check out our huge selection of vintage and pre-owned components. Audio Etc, powered by Klipsch, Bowers & Wilkins, SVS, Marantz, Denon, Sony, and a whole list of high-performance brands that you've probably never heard of. 551 Congress Park Drive in Centerville.
Audio Etc's crazy cool showroom.
Well, I'm a orthopedic surgeon, board certified.
Meet Dr. John Herzog, who's certainly done his share of knee and hip replacements. But these days, he's encouraging his patients to look at regenerative medicine options, now available at QC Kinetics.
I'm kind of the anti-surgeon right now, and a lot of my buddies, if they hear me talking, they're going to give me a call.
Dr. Herzog says advances in regenerative medicine can give your achy joints lasting relief, using highly concentrated healing agents from your own body to repair and restore damaged tissue.
We take the fluid out of you, we concentrate it and putting it in an area where they couldn't normally get to and facilitate healing.
Are you suffering from constant pain due to arthritis or injury? Maybe it's time to look at alternatives to drugs and surgery at QC Kinetics, the nation's leader in these exciting treatments.
What could be more natural than using your own body to heal yourself?
Call QC Kinetics now for your free consultation.
Call QC Kinetics, 937-936-0325. That's 937-936-0325. 937-936-0325.
Have you heard? $5,000 sign-on bonus. That's right. My friends at Cordell Transportation are now hiring Class A CDL drivers for home daily dedicated lanes, no-touch freight with brand new equipment, and offering a $5,000 sign-on bonus paid over 18 months, paid orientation, company 401k. Plus, they're now hiring recent truck driving school graduates. Apply today. Online at CordellTransportation.com. Driven to succeed.
Hi, this is Eddie Sorrell, Body Shop Manager at Germain Honda of Beaver Creek. Our technicians have over 125 years of total experience. That means we can repair your vehicle correctly and efficiently. So when you need a dependable body shop, we're here. And we repair all makes and models with new state-of-the-art equipment to get you back on the road quickly. Plus, we offer loaner cars during service and free estimates. Stop by and see us. Germain Honda, Beaver Creek, State Route 35, just east of 675 between Xenia and Beaver Creek.
Now at Menards, save big money on washers, dryers, refrigerators, and everything you need for your home with 11% off all Whirlpool appliances. We have the largest in-stock selection to take home today at the lowest prices. Upgrade to new energy-efficient appliances and get 11% off. Good through November 13th. Savings are mail-in rebates. Some exclusions apply. See store for details.
Save big money at Menards.
Need to visit the Ohio BMV? Go online first. It could save you a trip. It's now easier and more convenient than ever to get what you need from the BMV online. Need to renew your driver's license? Renew online. And if you need to renew your vehicle registration, visit one of our new BMV Express kiosks or go online. If you do need to visit a BMV agency, use the Get in Line online tool, also found on the website, to save your spot and minimize your time waiting. For more services available online, check out bmv.ohio.gov.
With Discover, you can redeem your rewards for cash in any amount at any time. Learn more at discover.com/redeem rewards. Terms apply.
You want more local content from Dayton's ESPN radio station, 1410 Wing AM? Make sure you subscribe to the WING 1410 Dayton YouTube channel, where you can watch all your local shows live or go back and rewatch previous episodes of The Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash, The Keith Byers Show, Talking Out Loud with Sully, and more.
Talking Out Loud with Sully returns to the 1410 ESPN radio airwaves tomorrow, immediately following our show from 6 to 7 p.m. every Wednesday moving forward throughout the college basketball season. Talking Out Loud with Sully. Of course, for those of you who follow the podcast, really good podcast. If you're a Dayton Flyers fan, that is the podcast to follow. Of course, Sully does a fantastic job, and we're excited to be partnering with him again for another college basketball season for the Flyers. Every Wednesday, Talking Out Loud, presented by Timothy's Bar and Grill right here on 1410 Wing AM. The Dayton Flyers will be in action once again coming up this Friday night. In fact, they'll be back out on the hardwood this Friday night at UD Arena as they welcome in SMU. So that's a big one. That's one of the Flyers' bigger non-conference matchups, and it's even bigger because it's going to be at the arena. Lindenwood, that was that was an appetizer for the appetite, right? Like Lindenwood was nothing. That wasn't that almost felt like another exhibition game. But the Flyers really going to have a good opponent coming up, SMU, this Friday night. And from 5 to 6:30, Sully will be live out at Timothy's Bar and Grill, and we will be hosting the Dayton Flyers pregame show right here on 1410 ESPN Radio from 5 to 6:30. He'll be live at Tim's. So again, this Friday, 5 to 6:30, Dayton Flyers pregame show right here on 1410 ESPN Radio, Dayton's ESPN radio station at that. So a couple takeaways from last night's game and the Flyers win over Lindenwood. Doug Toby, he says, looks like all the returners gained about 20 good pounds, and they still have 2 injured players on the bench. And that is the crazy thing, the depth that Anthony Grant has with this unit. Pretty impressive, and they're not even full power yet. Some guy says Mike looks nice, talking about Mike Shervance, of course. Length for days and looks to be that extra ball handler that we lacked last year. Talking about the Flyers, of course, when Malachi Smith went out, they just totally changed. UD was one of the hottest teams in college basketball last year to close out the season. They lose Malachi Smith in the A-10 tournament, and they just disappeared. They just did not look like the same basketball team. Having that ball handler, and again, I talked about that, not just the ball handler, but the vision, the ability to move the basketball. I'm a big fan of his. We're going to see what he does against a bigger opponent coming up on Friday night. But some guy says get Mally back at some point, and that should be the toughest team to score on in the A-10. So there's that. All right. Before we close out the show today, I wanted to make sure, because Kev Nash is off tomorrow, and with the season coming to it, not the season, the week 9 coming to an end, college football or NFL. See, I'm all flustered. I'm all over the place. The NFL season. We have about 7 minutes to hit the ground running, Kev, here. So I'll hit the ground running now. NFL Top 10, Kev Nash's power rankings. Kev Nash, for those watching live on Facebook and YouTube, your power rankings are up on the screen. The Chiefs you have as number 1.
Yes, Chiefs jumped to the number 1 spot. Obviously, they got the overtime victory over the Titans. Titans play some good football. They got a little something for the Chiefs with that run game, but ultimately they were able to get it done. Patrick Mahomes was out there slinging that thing like he was back at Texas Tech, so they get the number 1 spot for me. The only undefeated team in the NFL, Philadelphia Eagles, coming in at number 2. Buffalo has been the number 1 team quite a few weeks in a row. They ultimately lost to the Jets this past weekend. Also, Josh Allen got banged up, so they fall to the number 3 spot. We got the Minnesota Vikings. Somehow, some way, they keep on winning games. They winning games. Kirk Cousins, even though I bang on him a lot, hey, guess what? They only lost 1 game this season, and they got a lot of come from behind victories in the fourth quarter, and he's the quarterback, and he's throwing those touchdown passes, so you got to give him a lot of respect for that. So the Vikings at number 4. Coming off a bye week, we got the Dallas Cowboys sitting at number 5. Miami Dolphins, Tua, back from the concussions. He looked very rusty versus the Pittsburgh Steelers in these last couple of weeks. He's starting to get his mojo back, so I got the Dolphins coming in at number 6. Ravens, they got the win on Monday Night Football. We said it before. It's not pretty, but they keep winning, and they keep winning by double digits. So you got to pay them some type of respect at some point. And obviously, the addition of the linebacker trade that they got with the Chicago Bears paying dividends early for them. Number 8, and this is where it starts to get a little fishy for me. At number 8, we got the Seattle Seahawks. Geno Smith. I said it before. I'll say it again. It looks like he's back at West Virginia. He's out there full command of the offense, running around, making plays. Running game is clicking for the Seahawks. And that defense is super young but super talented, and they're starting to make plays in the secondary. So I got the Seahawks coming in number 8. Number 9, the Giants. And then number 10, I went with the San Francisco 49ers. I know San Francisco 49ers, what are they? They're 4-4, right? But they're good. They're physical. They got mad weapons out there. They got Debo. They got Christian McCaffrey. And Christian McCaffrey, they're going to use him like the Swiss Army knife that he is, like he was early in his career. And I don't think he's going to get as many touches as he did early in his career. So they got 2 real good gadget players in Debo and in McCaffrey. And that defense is starting to get healthy. So look out for the San Francisco 49ers. I got them at the 10 spot.
All right, as we close out the show today, Kev Nash's power rankings. My power rankings are now up. I have the Chiefs at number 1. I just think that's the best. I mean, right now, Patrick Mahomes, that's their MVP right now. I mean, he loses his number 1 wide receiver, and he hasn't missed a beat. He's just continued to play at a high level. I have the Bills at number 2. I know they lost. I'm not a big fan of just because the team loses, moving them down drastically. I still think that, the NFL, the injury thing, though, is why I can obviously be a little kind of iffy about the future of the Bills' success this immediate season right now. I know the Eagles are undefeated. Still a lot of talk, though, about, okay, they haven't run into any, elite teams at this point. But you know what good teams do? They beat the bad teams. And they have beat every bad team that's on their schedule. And they have a lot more bad teams ahead of them.
Right.
Jalen Hurts has played his position perfectly. He came into the NFL the same year as Joe Burrow and has more wins than Joe Burrow. I don't know. We finally ironed out that debate a little bit ago. Vikings are at number 4, man. They're just quietly taking care of business. I think they love the fact that no eyes are on them. Everyone's talking about the demise of Aaron Rodgers, the kneecap coach with the Lions, him failing. Everyone's talking about those teams and that mess over there. And the Vikings are just quietly winning football games and doing it with an elite offense and a very solid defense, a much improved defense. I really like the Vikings.
And to chime on to that point real quick, everybody's talking about the improvement of the Chicago Bears and the play of Justin Fields. So still, even though they're leading the division, nobody's talking about them. Everybody around them has talking points around them, except for the team that's leading the division. And I'm sure that they love it. Don't talk about us. Let's just keep winning games and keep it under the radar and then surprise folks.
Yeah, I think the Vikings, don't be surprised when they're the ones representing the NFC when it's all said and done. Dolphins come in at number 5. I'm a big believer in Tua. Tua, when he left the Dolphins in the second half, we saw, a dip in play from the Dolphins. We saw it in the coming weeks after that. He comes back, and there's just an energy on the field. You see it. He does not hold back his star players. I tried to defend Baker Mayfield for many years, saying that, if you can't win with star players, you're not a good quarterback. Tua is out here getting the most out of his star players. They're getting the most out of him. He's not turning the ball over. He's just playing at such a high level. 15 touchdowns on the season, and that's with missing a few games. I'm a big fan of Tua and the work that the Dolphins are doing. I hope they lose this coming up weekend for obvious reasons. Number 6, the Dallas Cowboys. They just continue to win, and they continue to stick to their identity, and that's running the football, and that's, of course, what they do on the defensive side of the ball. I like that since Dak Prescott has come back, they have not tried to go back to what they were doing before and trying to win through the air. That's not who they are. That's not who they're going to be. They have to stick to what works. And as long as they do that, they're going to remain one of the top teams in the NFL, and they're doing it. I have the Seahawks at 7. Pete Carroll, this is the best coaching job he's ever done, in my opinion, and it's even better than the job that during the years that he took the team to the Super Bowl. Those Super Bowl teams had the best defense in the NFL and just enough playmakers on offense. This Seahawks team, they shouldn't be where they're at, and they're doing it because those players believe in Pete Carroll. They're buying into it. Got to give him and the Seahawks a lot of credit. Ravens come in at number 8. They just keep winning. It's not pretty. It's not the best, but you know what? That's just a very good organization. All they do is win, win, win. And then at 9 and 10, the New York Giants and the New York Jets. 9 and 10, the Giants and the Jets. 6 and 3. They just keep winning. They're not supposed to be winning in the eyes of most, and it's weird seeing them win. But the Jets, I kind of like what's happening there. How about Sauce Gardner, by the way? That dude's adding a little flair to the Jets, and I like that on that identity on the defensive side of the ball. But there you go. That is Kev Nash and myself's power rankings as Week 9 officially has wrapped up. So there's that. No Bengals, by the way. No Bengals. Just throwing that out there.
What about the Browns? I know before you try to sneak the Browns in there before.
I didn't try to sneak the Browns. The Browns were 2-0 to start the season. They had the best run game in football, the best offensive line. They started losing games, not in there. But they beat the Dolphins this week.
You still going to say they won that Jets game, huh?
They look, that doesn't happen every week where a team gives up a damn 90 or 11-point lead 90 seconds. When they beat the Dolphins this week, though, they're back in the top 10. They just throttled the Cincinnati Bengals, and they're going to take care of Tua in the Dolphins. But you know what? We're out of time. Buckeye Roundtable coming up next. Buckeyes tonight. Find out where they are in the rankings. Kev, you're still Buckeyes at 3, right?
Buckeyes at 3.
Buckeyes at 3. That, unfortunately, both of us have that team up north moving up to second. You shouldn't struggle with Northwestern. That'll teach you. Until tomorrow, this is the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash on 1410 ESPN Radio.
It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash.